What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Out of Our League. It's been a minute. I mean, holy crap! It's been 2 months since our last episode. Oops, somebody's been slacking. I'll be your host today. I'm Gage. You guys already know that. Down below me we have Phil. You know, apparently Phil's wife as well. Over there we have McKenna. Pointing.
It's
and then
me.
Our special guest today that I'm very excited to have is my
That was perfect timing. I'm sorry.
My friend Luke Ryder from the band Avoid. This has been
Hello.
We started talking about doing this last year.
We did.
A year ago, almost exactly.
And then we did. You messaged me and I was like, oh, it's only been like a couple months since we talked about this. And then I looked at the dates and I was like,
okay, Elrond. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like, oh yeah, I should probably reconnect with that. We're gonna probably talk about a lot of cool stuff today because for those of you, I mean, I'm pretty sure nobody out there really knows because I don't really talk about it, but I used to be in a band, and when I was in that band, we played shows, including the first show that Luke played at, and that's where we met. So I'm sure we're gonna kind of rehash a lot about that. But yeah, I guess first things first is like, how the hell are you, dude?
I'm good, man. Just got back from tour last week. It's been the usual adjustment, you know, sleep a lot, go back to work, and suddenly you're just back in reality. But yeah, dude, things are good. Things are really good.
Awesome. So I guess for those of you out there who don't know, much about the band, do you have like an elevator pitch for kind of like what Avoid is all about?
Fuck. All right. Yeah, it's just
putting you on the spot.
Usually I just mention something about like, oh yeah, I play music, and they're like, oh, what kind of music? And I'm like, rock adjacent type of music. And then they would ask what the band's called and how to find us. I saw them, look up Avoid Kicks Ass. And that usually is like, all right, well, that catches somebody's eye because they either want to hate on it because our name is Avoid Kicks Ass, or they're like, sweet, let's see what's up. Like, I don't know. That's usually it. I don't really have much of a pitch.
Why do you say rock adjacent?
Because it's rock and a lot of other things mixed in there too.
Okay.
And you know, if I tell somebody that doesn't know me or isn't super familiar in like the heavier music or alternative music scene, if I say rock, you know, like if I say that to like one of my parents' friends, they're gonna think they're going into something entirely different than what our band is. Like we're very driven, like we're a rock band, but you know, if I'm just talking to somebody, it's kind of hard to just describe us as a rock band and send them off expecting that. You know what I mean? It's like, absolutely. I don't know, rock adjacent.
I just wasn't sure if it was like you didn't like explaining it, so you were just like rock adjacent, or if it was because, you know, there's more going on and you just it's easier to say rock adjacent. Nah,
like at the end of the day, we're a rock band. Like that's what we are. But it's just easier to explain it a little bit differently, like in passing. Be like, hey, we play like heavier rock. That's something I'll say a lot too. Like it's kind of heavy rock, close to metal, not quite straight up rock, a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? I mean, this new album has like a really big array of different types of songs, and I think that, like, I don't know. I'm also very broad with how I describe things with us in general, just because it gives people zero expectations. They go in with like a completely open mind. They're like, I don't really know what this is, but they're called Avoid, and I met this dude at doing whatever, and I'm just going to see what it's all about, you know? Like, don't give anybody any preconceived notions. Not to be like, for any other reason than just like, I think that's kind of fun. You know?
That's awesome. Yeah, because you're not wrong. Like the rock in and of itself covers so many forms of music.
Yeah.
It's so hard to quantify.
No, it is. It's like, and you can also do the complete opposite and dive into subgenres all day long. And, you know, me personally, I don't really like to do that because I think that it just like, then you get into like, I don't know. I like to not be super specific with it and just leave things open to other people's perspective. It's kind of fun to see like like a raw reaction or hear like a raw reaction from somebody that just they don't really know what they're getting into, you know?
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's fun. Makes it interesting.
That was something that was always interesting about our sound, because we were Visionary would have been classified more as like deathcore, but if you're not into like the core scene, you don't really understand what that is. So yeah, whenever like my grandparents would ask or whatever, it's like, oh, it's a metal band.
Exactly. You take the umbrella genre and use that as your description. Like, you know, I'm not trying to have to explain my band and what we sound like and who we sound like, and then what's that subgenre? And I'm like, oh shit! Like I just cracked open a whole new can of worms there.
Yeah,
we're a rock band, you know.
Yeah, all you have to know is it's loud and it's chaotic and
exactly. I'm like, hey,
let's go from there.
Exactly.
So I want to kind of piggyback off with some of the stuff we were talking about before the show. When did you start, like, you know, you don't have to be like specific dates or whatever, but like when did you kind of start falling in love with music and learn about, you know, or decide you wanted to start learning how to play guitar and stuff like that?
January 4th, 2009.
Well, actually, I don't know. I mean, I've always loved music, like in general. Like when I was younger, there's videos of me as a kid, like putting on little concerts with my buddies in the garage. Like we just grab something that resembled a guitar and turn up the music really loud and pretend we were the band. And anytime I would listen to music growing up, like I didn't even play I didn't even play guitar till high school, but I would just like walk to school and listen to all these bands that I liked, and I'd think of myself as the guitar player or the singer, and like I always wanted to perform. And I guess school kind of gave me that chance. In like 5th grade, they were like, all right, pick an instrument, and then you could quit 2 years later if you wanted to. But like we got there and I didn't really want to quit. You know, I liked it. I had fun playing music. I had, you know, the young guy thing of like the young person thing of just, I don't really want to practice. I just want to like be good at it. So obviously learned real quick, but I don't know. I just never quit. We got through middle school and I was like, well, I guess it's kind of a given. I'm going to do this in high school. And then, you know, a lot of friends that I did it with, you see them kind of leave over the years, but like a small group of my really close friends, we all did it together pretty much through high school all the way to the end, which is dope. And so, you know, we had a lot of classical music we were playing, which really like gave me it helped a lot with like your internal rhythm or being able to play along with other people and not just by yourself. Like, you know, and that was really cool. And actually one of the guys that I played in orchestra with from 7th grade on is the drummer of the band that I did it with until A Void.
Nice.
And then, yeah, I don't know. I guess it was just, I always wanted to do it, but it wasn't until high school that I kind of got real about it. You know, I had my buddy, like I was saying, my buddy Brian Butcher, from the band The Home Team. Listen to The Home Team. I did my first tour with them too, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Brian, we became friends when I was in 8th grade, and he's 2 years older, so he was a sophomore. So we stay in contact. He's like, oh yeah, dude, like stoked for you to come to high school next year and we can go to school together and shit. And I get there and he immediately just takes me under his wing and he's like, we're kicking it all the time. And he's like giving me CDs of these bands. He's like, hey, I think you'd like this song. Hey, I think you'd like this song. And like really kind of gave me an identity, like helped me find my identity as like an adolescent. And so he, you know, and finally one of these like, hey, this band that I really think is cool is playing this Friday and we should go see it. And I'd never been to a club show. I was a little nervous and I'd only been to the big festivals. And so I asked my parents and they're like, hell yeah, go ahead. So I go and it's Jamie's Elsewhere and like 4 other bands that were all from the general vicinity in Washington. And a couple of those guys I ended up playing shows with like 5 years down the line, which is hilarious. It was like, I remember you. But Anyway, we go to this show, and it's me, Brian, our friend Jacob, who could scream at the time. He was like into the same music, so he was like, cool, I'm gonna go too. And we all went together. And then my buddy Connor, who was the one I played in orchestra with, and he played drums. And we're watching this opening band. I'm like, wow, that looks fun. Like that looks like a lot of fun. Like, so mid set, I turned to my buddy Brian, and he had been in bands before and had songs written on his own. I was like, you write songs and play guitar. Connor plays drums. Jacob can scream. I'll literally like learn how to play guitar right now, so we can do that. And he was like, cool, man. And then we just didn't talk about it again. And then like a week before the new year, so this was like probably a week after the show, 2 weeks after the show, they call me and they're like, he's like, hey, I talked to the other guys. They're down for a practice this Friday. And I was like, whoa. Hold your horses, buddy. Like, I haven't even thought about this. I don't even know how to play guitar. Like, what do you mean? Like, I haven't looked into this yet. And he's like, cool. Well, everyone else is down and I don't really care what you think. So you should show up this Friday. And I was like, all right. So I showed up and he started teaching me how to play guitar. And I think later that week I went out and I bought my first guitar, which is currently sitting disassembled under my dresser because I was doing a project and lost track of time. But basically, yeah, every Friday for who knows how long, we would have a new thing that we would do. He's like, hey, we're working on this song. And it was all hard shit. Like, he'd been playing guitar for 5 years, 6 years at that point, like grew up with it. And he's teaching me these riffs that he's writing. He's like, it's not that hard. And I was like, yeah, it is. But K. So like just playing on this janky gear, like we were all just figuring it out together. And he pushed me so hard. I hated him. He was like, you got to get this done. You got to get this done. I'd show up unprepared and he'd just be a dick about it. And it got me better. It got me good quick. So a year later, we finally get our first show. And like, I actually felt ready because I had a friend that at the start, pushed me through the like, oh, this is hard. I can't do it. I had a friend that with a little bit of experience helping me out. And then like 9 years later, we're both still doing it in bands, and like we'll run into each other in random cities across the country, just like, oh, hey, you guys are crossing through here. Like, we're leaving here. Go to this In-N-Out. And we'll just literally meet up and get food together for 30 minutes, catch up, and just bounce to other parts of the country. It's just like, I don't know. That's a long-winded explanation of where it got started. Like, a lot of just kind of being scrappy about it and just wanting that first show. Like, it was like, we got to put a set together. We got to write these songs. And Brian was just a monster about it and just would teach us these things. And then we'd start writing together. And then, yeah, we did that band from freshman year to high school to senior year. And then Brian and I at the same time pretty much ended up joining different bands. And then we were still playing in that band. We played like a final show and then we kind of just did our own thing. It wasn't a final show, but it was an EP release / like we never played again. So
what was that first show like? Like after a year of just learning the guitar for the first time and then getting that first show, what was that like?
Oh, dude, I was so nervous.
Yeah.
I was so nervous. Like, we'd done one live thing before where we played our set for like our high school's AV club so they could do a video and audio recording for practice. And like, I was on vacation the week before that, so I couldn't really practice. So the guitar that I have disassembled right now, I literally took the neck off of it, I like folded that up, put it in my laundry and took it on a trip with me, put it back together and just like played the set every day on vacation, just like getting ready. And like, he taught me, he was like, I have a whole story about him teaching me how to sing where it was just awful and it was hilarious. But he basically, I get back and we do that thing. We never saw it. We were so excited to see it and we just never saw it. It was hilarious. But then we did that, so I was at least a little bit more comfortable, like holding an instrument, standing up and playing, not facing each other and being able to just fuck up and restart. That show, like 2 days before, we invited a bunch of kids from our high school to our drummer's house where we would practice, and it was like 2 blocks from the high school, 3 blocks. And we were like, hey, like some of our close homies were doing like a little house show after school. We're just going to play our set. We're going to do a practice, but like if you guys want to come watch, we can make a little show out of it. We tried to make it a bigger thing, but like we were young. We had no concept of how to book our own show, let alone put it together and do anything about it. So we just settled for practicing with people there. And like, I don't know, like 10 or 15 of our friends came, and like we jumped around in his room and just like played our set to him and hung out in the backyard. So that took some nerves off. What was cool is when we were setting up for that, we got booked for our second show. Like I had sent an email. We really liked this one band, and like they weren't that big, and they were drawing really well, but like they weren't that big yet. They weren't untouchable. And we like sent an email out, or I like emailed El Corazon, and I was like, hey, I want to play this show. And he's like, cool, man. Email this guy. He books the shows. And I emailed him, and he's like, we get the email back like, yeah, we'll book you. Like, you're opening now. And then we were like, cool. He was like, yeah, let's get it rolling. Like, you need to sell this many tickets. Well, not need to, but like try to sell this many tickets. And that was happening right before we started playing for all of our friends in their basement. So I'm like at the mic and I'm like, guys, we got the show, and we freaked out.
Aww.
It was so sick. And then we played our set, we packed it all up, and then we just counted down until the show, and it happened on a Sunday. And like we had our friend with that had like a video camera, and like he was following us around, and we were like making that such a big thing of it. We were so excited, like had our outfits picked out and like everything. Like we were so stoked and nervous and no clue what we were doing. I don't remember a single thing about the setup. I don't remember a single thing about how the hell we got through that show, like not performance wise, but figuring out the logistics of it. It's like looking back, like I didn't even recognize that there was such a thing as a music scene, like a local music scene. I was like, how do all these people, like, how are all these like bands that aren't big drawing like bands that were big in our area that I was watching? I was like, wait, but they're not like signed. They're not like doing all this stuff. How are they putting together these shows? I had no idea there was a music scene. I was just like, I want to do that. So we did it. And then over time it was like, oh, okay. So there's such a thing as like a music scene. There's some of the same people come to these shows, and the same bands are always rolling around, and like, I don't know. But I don't know how the hell we got through that show, but we made it through. We had a lot of fun. We somehow got like 75 of our friends to come to the show. We sold out of our 50 tickets for our first show for that one immediately. And it was like, cool, man, I guess we'll just keep selling them. And I think we got like 75 or 80 tickets. And like, it was just a bunch of these kids from my high school that I never thought would ever go to a show, and that never went to a show again. Ever. They had a lot of fun, but it wasn't their scene, you know? It was just like that we want to see our friend play his first show. And like all of our band members had those people there, and like I just remember playing, and it was just so sick. Like I remember the nerves leaving for sure. He was like, okay, all right, we can just focus on the playing now, because this is actually going all right. And like, holy shit, I just watched my friend from like down the street get tossed on his ass and skid out of the room halfway. Like, I don't know. We were ecstatic, and we just felt like we were the top of the world. And then we went back to school the next day, and it was like nothing had ever happened. And it was like, I know what happened. Like, there were 2 days where like all the people that went to the show were like, that was crazy. And then everybody kind of just went about their lives. But like, it stuck. It stuck. Like, I definitely remember like a before and after. Like that's definitely one of those before after things. Like, you play your first show, it's like your first anything. You're just, all right, like, new chapter unlocked. Let's do this shit. And it just did that shit. We just played the worst shows just for no reason through high school, just trekking out to these bars. And like, dude, I played shows that Like I have friends from those shows to this day where we're like, yo, do you remember that we both played that? And they're like, yo, what the hell? Like, really? Like, I don't know. My friend Dylan, like, he used to play in the home team way back in the day, and a couple other bands. And like, we're friends from completely different things now. But like, we look back and we're like, holy shit, like, that's where we met each other, was just cutting our teeth playing, standing out in rainy parking lots waiting to play in the pub. You know? I don't know. It's God, you're unlocking all these crazy ass memories of the come up, dude. Like I'm just gonna talk for like 45 minutes if you let me. So please just
Yeah, we love it. It's great.
It's great.
Now, this actually sparked another question for me.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie The Green Room?
I just heard about this. I've heard about it a couple times, but I was just like reading this the other day, and somebody was like recommending it to my buddy because he also tours and stuff, and he was asking for horror movie recommendations. Somebody said, "You're a musician. You should watch this." so I haven't seen it, but I'd love to.
So to give you the setup, it's about a band that they're a smaller band and they are traveling, using what money they make to travel to the next destination, booking gigs, and
essential.
Yeah, and then they play it, they get their, their money from the show, and then they, start making calls, or they have their next show lined up, whatever. And of course, the entire movie culminates at this certain place that they go to and things happen. But I don't want to say any more than that, because any more than that starts to spoil it.
Okay, I gotta watch that like soon. I ain't doing anything later. I'll probably just throw that on as I'm going to bed and just probably end up going to bed at 2 and being late to work, but whatever, who cares?
It's worth it for being one of the last performances from Anton Yelchin before he passed away. So it's worth it just for that. But I definitely...
that makes it worth it.
When you were describing that, that's the first thing that popped into my head was that movie.
Dude, there have definitely been like... There are definitely times where you're like, am I in a fucking horror movie right now? Is this really happening? Like, seriously? Like, God, the first times we like broke down on tour and like were stranded somewhere was like the biggest crisis ever. And now it's literally like, fuck, I have work to do. This sucks. Like, it used to be like, holy fuck, this is the worst thing ever. And like, I guess as you get used to it, you just... I don't know. I remember there being times where it was just like, okay, this is just a shitty horror movie that's happening right now, and I'll wake up soon. Like, it's all good, But that's what makes it fun. Yeah.
So
do you have like? Oh, sorry.
Go for it.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, do you have like a worst story? Like the worst thing that happened?
That's actually what I was gonna ask.
Okay.
Dude, if there's something that stands out to me as like, it's not even that it was like, it sounds shit, and it is shit, and looking back on it, it's like, oh my God, that would happen. So we're out on this winter tour in like 2018, and we had this old van that was on its dying legs, and we loved it. It was amazing. And we had this pretty much kicked off a whole set of every tour. A big part of our traveling rig would just fall the fuck apart. So we're in Albuquerque. This is where it starts. My grandpa at the time, not like that changed. My grandpa was not doing well and expected. It wasn't like out of the blue. It was like a long, drawn out process. So my dad calls me, lets me know, like, hey, like, this is, we're like a mile from the show at this point. He's just calling me. He's like, hey, like, just letting you know, like, looks like it's probably taking a turn. Probably have to start processing that. Just letting me know that it's probably in the last couple days. I can deal with that on the road. We've been talking about it the whole time. But the second he tells me that, the van dies. And I'm like, yo, that's crazy. We're on a bridge. There's nowhere we can pull off. Yeah, so like the van completely shuts down, like nothing. And we're like, sweet. So I'm like stepping out of the van, and I tell him, I'm like, yeah, the van just died. This is really trippy. And he was like, okay, well, I'm gonna let you go take care of that. I just wanted to let you know, and like, I'll talk to you later. And it was all good. And we figure it out. We call the towing company, and we've tried this before, but they never take our trailer. And this one dude with a flatbed from AAA rolls up. We have to lie to him because they won't take, like if you're a business and you're traveling for business purposes, they won't tow your shit. So we just tell them we're moving. And we've done this before. We'd never had it work. And we're like, nah, man, we're just helping our buddy move. It's all furniture back there. Like, there's a lot of us, but we turned it into a road trip. Please get us somewhere. We find a shop that's like a couple blocks, like half a mile from the venue. And we get there right as they're closing their doors. He tows our van. All of us are in the cab. And then our trailer behind the flatbed, it was sick. And then he backs the trailer into the shop so that we can store it in there. And they let us, which was so cool. And then the van is in there. And we all look at each other. We're like, we can push the gear from here. Like, sorry, dude. Crack the trailer, pull all the gear out, stack it all up, and start pushing. And he didn't give a shit. He was like, cool. So we push all of our gear. We borrow some from another van that we were on tour with to get through the night. But like, basically, that's what started all the bad luck.
Oh no!
That's the kickoff to all of this. So we're getting into like December 20th here, or something like that. So we get through the show. The next day, shit gets fixed. Whatever. We make it back home eventually. Not home. We make it to LA eventually. We're playing the Whiskey A Go Go on Sunset, which is like legendary venue. We were so stoked. But it was like December 23rd, so obviously everybody's doing Christmas shit and nobody shows up. Fine. It wasn't nobody, but you know, like when you're in a sizable venue and you get like a little bit of the crowd in there, like a good crowd, but it doesn't pack it out, you know, you got to work a little harder. It was fun, a lot of fun. The staff was dope. Like the whole experience, the whiskey itself was awesome. Which was very relieving because it's like, you know, you look up to a place that you want to play and you go there and you have an experience that exceeds that. Like, shout out those guys. That was really cool. So we have a great show. We're like, sweet. Like, end of tour. Like, send it out on a high. Show was way better than we thought it would be 2 days before Christmas. Like, met some cool people that we still know, like, from that show. And we start driving home. And we get through the night, and I drive. So I'm driving overnight. It gets to daylight. I'm done. One of our other guys takes over. I'm sleeping in the back, and our back tire explodes. Like, completely explodes. And this is Christmas Eve now. Like, we're trying to get home for Christmas to spend time with our families. And, you know, like, you don't really want to just be in the fucking van on Christmas Eve. So... And I forgot to mention also at this point, like between that time, like my grandpa had passed away, and there was like there was a funeral that was set, and it was a couple days after Christmas. I had to get home to make my flight the day after Christmas to fly out to the Midwest to go to that. So we're on a good tear to get home on Christmas Eve night. Tire blows up. Fuck. Fix it. On the side of the freeway in the rain. I had not slept yet, and I was like, oh, all right, like, let's just get this done. Get it done. Keep rolling. People are flashing their lights at us, and we're like, the fuck? Like, this happens later, actually. I'm getting ahead of myself again. I start going to sleep in the back, but there's a weird noise coming from the tire, and I'm like, it's really subtle, but like, I have my head down, and I'm like, I can't ignore it. And it keeps going. And I asked my friend, I'm like, hey, should I say something? And he's like, no, it's fine. And I was like, okay. I almost fall asleep, and I'm like, guys, the van sounds fucking weird. We need to pull over. So we pull over. Smoke just pouring out of the rear axle. And we're in Mount Shasta at this point. So, like, the I-5 corridor, you know, you got all those mountain passes where there's nothing. Shasta is, like, a big boy. And as you guys probably already know this, but, like, for anybody that doesn't, when you're going north on I-5 to, like, maybe go to Portland or Seattle from California, pretty much as soon as you leave Reading, you're going into the mountains for a couple hours with some stuff there, and it's not easy on your car or your van if you're heavy. So we pull off right as we're getting into the mountains. We're in a big gravel pit, pretty much just like, that don't look right. Do it. So we try to call a mobile mechanic, but it's Christmas Eve.
Oh no.
Who's gonna help? Nobody. So I can't blame them. So we make the decision that we're just gonna go get a hotel in Reading because we realize that we're fucked if we don't get out of there. Like, we just want to go figure this out, not in the mountains in the rain at night on Christmas Eve. So we limp the thing back to Reading. And I'm a firm believer that if it had not been pouring rain that day, that van would have caught on fire, because like it was smoking badly, and there was like basically a bunch of metal flakes made its way into like the axle, and it was just creating a shitload of friction. So, not good.
I mean, that's how one of those California fires started. Dude. A very similar situation, but it was dry. So...
Exactly. So super stoked that didn't happen. We made it back. This one mobile mechanic in Redding, California, and I wish I could remember his name, came out at 10 p.m. to our hotel parking lot.
Damn.
He brought his kid with him. His kid was like 10. A lot of these guys that do the mobile mechanic stuff, like they'll bring their kid with them so that they can learn it, or just because, that's what makes sense in the summer. Help your dad out. So he brings his kid with him. It's Christmas Eve. This kid's so dope. And like, we're kicking it, like making jokes with this little kid. Well, the dad puts the van up and pulls the axle out, and he's like, yeah, that's fucked. So he makes some calls, and he tries to get us an axle that, like, as soon as possible. It just can't happen. And so we're going to need to stay there for a few days. And I'm like, oh, that's a problem. Like, I kind of got to go. Sorry, guys, I got to go catch a funeral real quick. So I'm searching. We're like, all right, we're going to stay here. I'm searching and try to find a rental car. Obviously not. It's getting late. Everything's closed. Try to find a U-Haul. Everything's closed. Try to find a flight. No airport that's close. No flights. Great. Greyhound.
Oh.
Greyhound came through. So I was like, dude, I'm sorry. I gotta get home so I can do this. And they're like, no, go. Like, you have to make that. They were like, my boys were obviously would understand the same way we would. So like, we just spent the whole day, whatever time we had in that hotel that night, Christmas Eve, just like one of our friends ordered us a couple pizzas, like a couple other friends helped us cover our hotel room, and it just people doing good people shit, which was very cool. I fall asleep, and we all fall asleep, and I wake up to my little sister like, hey, you're at the Greyhound station, right? And I was like, fuck. So I get it. I'm like, all right, I gotta get there. I still had more than enough time, but it was close. Like, that was really close. I mean, I hadn't slept, can't blame me, but basically just hustled my way to the Greyhound station in this Uber and took a overnight home, and it took forever, and it was definitely not a fun Christmas Eve. What was cool though is my dad had already flown out. It was his dad that passed away. My mom and my little sister and my girlfriend were all kicking it at my mom's house because we were all going the next day. And my mom somehow put together like some sort of a Christmas morning so we could all hang out and have like a good day together. And it was like, it was definitely like a shit situation, but definitely it's one that I look back on and I can make fun of, like, oh my God, that would happen. Like, how much more bad luck can you get in a row? And it just like, but it was character building, we came out of it, and like the boys had to stay down there and miss Christmas with their families, which I literally almost flew back down to ride home with them because I was like, I can't leave y'all like that. But they got home, and it was not ideal for anybody, but it was one of those where it's like, wow, this is definitely not what I had in mind doing this, but it also wasn't one of those experiences where you're like, never doing that again. It's like, all right, well, hope that doesn't happen again, you know?
That's kind of what I was going to say. Is it's like one of those good luck, bad luck situations where really bad stuff happened, but thankfully there was something that kept that silver lining going. Because yeah, I mean, that could have been turned real bad.
100%. I think that's kind of the mentality that like we're all really lucky in the band that we all kind of share. Is at this point, it's like, all right, this is shit for everyone. Like, this sucks for everyone. This would happen. Let's just laugh it off and work with it. And that's kind of just like situations like that, honestly, like are some of the things that have helped us out in the future. Because, hey, at least it's not that, you know? Or like, even if it is that, again, you're like, all right, we've been here before. Like, it becomes less of a crisis and more of an eye roll, if that makes sense. Which you can apply almost everywhere. Which is also another cool thing. Like, you can apply a lot of these stupid ass, like, happenstances that happen all the time when you're putting yourself in a position for shitty things to happen to you. Like, chances are, if you drive a lot, you're going to have car problems sometimes. It's just one of those things. And you learn how to stop taking it so personally and, like, it's the end of your world when, like, it really isn't. You can probably just fix it with a phone call, you know? Like on the Fit for a King tour, like the day 0, we hadn't even played the first show yet. We were on our way there. We stopped at Guitar Center to get things we needed. The trailer axle snaps in half. Yeah, so we had to call a guy to escort us to the venue. We missed the second show, sold the trailer to a trailer shop, bought a new trailer, and then joined up on day 3. And just like, it was, I think that all of those shit things that have happened over the years, one, they're always going to happen. You can't stop that. It just happens. And 2, you just learn how to deal with it quicker next time, which is cool because now it's like, fuck, again? Okay, let's speed run, new trailer, let's go, you know?
It's like tempered steel, you know? Just hardening you for the next battle.
Straight up, dude. Straight up. Like, we laughed our asses off one time. We had a different trailer snap in half at the hitch. After a particularly rough drive, we like parked. And what was so shitty, and I'm so sorry, I'm just going into story after story, but like,
This is great.
Fantastic.
this one was hilarious. So our guitar player for one tour was like really paranoid about the trailer being locked or unlocked, which is a great thing to be paranoid about. But us, when we would be like, we just want to leave, we'd be like, I don't fucking know. Is the trailer good? Because he'd be like, oh, is the trailer good? We're like, I don't know. You go look. So we get back. We go to Canada. We're doing this hard touring through fucking January on the East Coast, through East Coast of U.S. and Canada and back down. And we're in the Midwest. We're on our... I think we just made the decision, like, okay, we have to call it on these last couple shows. I don't think we can make these happen. Like, I think we need to get home because we're just like, something happened. I don't remember what it was. And that night, that fucking night, on that drive, we stopped to go to bed. We hear, and we're like, oh, that's weird. Probably just a truck next to us or something. Our guitar player, the same one, gets out to go get something from the trailer. He comes back and he opens the door and he's like, guys, look, I know I've been saying it the whole tour, but I actually think you should come check the trailer. So we all get out and it's nighttime and it's freezing ass cold and it's dark. And what do you know? This crack in our trailer hitch had turned into our trailer, like not the trailer itself, where it meets the ball of the van. The metal at the trailer just collapsed, and our trailer was now sitting on the ground separately from our van, like attached, but by like this much metal. And I was like,
Oh my god.
I think we all just died laughing. We were like, yo, that's fucking crazy, dude. How'd that happen? This sucks ass, but like, that's crazy. So like, then we took some meme videos of it, and like, we made some memes, and like, I think one of us like photoshopped it to look unbroken. And like, we were like, that's good. And I think we were just standing out there looking at it, and we were like, we guys want to smoke a bowl about it? Yep. Hop back in the van, smoked some weed, and went to bed. We were like, we're not dealing with this right now. So, and the same deal. This is the first time we lost a trailer on a tour. We called some guys the next day. They were like a trailer yard, and we were like, hey, this shit's broken at a truck stop like 12 miles from you. Can you come pick us up? And also, can we sell you our trailer? And also, can we buy a trailer from you? And they were like, yeah, sure. So they hauled our trailer up on a flatbed, and we had to leave a lot of really good stickers on that trailer, man. I know. And also a street sign that I stole on my 21st birthday that was bolted into the wall.
Oh man, what a loss.
I know, dude. That was the saddest. I was looking at it. I was like, oh, I'll bet you we got the screwdriver for it. And it was some fucking crazy ass hex screw that was just absolutely torqued into the steel. And I was like,
Man.
rest in peace, kind soldier. You did me well. It was, dude, it was crazy. Like, there have just been a million times now that we've just had to figure it out on the spot if we wanted to get home. And it was like, well, we have a couple options here. Like, we sit and we live in Illinois now, or we figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
I think what's really neat about that is the fact that it doesn't seem to, I mean, obviously it's hard in the moment, but it doesn't seem to tank your energy. Like you talked about just going right in and doing that third show when you finally got to the destination you were going to. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. I imagine that, like, especially after all of that, it's really hard to get in the mode of playing a show and having that energy that you need to make it a good one, right?
Sometimes you'd think so, but it honestly, it's surprising even to me to this day, like however many 100 shows I have under my belt at this point. It's like, it's still surprising to me how just being in that environment can kind of just make you not forget, but process better. Like, I'll have a miserable day sometimes on tour because you have miserable days at home. You're going to have them on tour too. And it's just sometimes you just don't feel like it. And like, I don't know. And on those days, you kind of just have to like, okay, I'm going to set up my stuff and I'm just going to take a little time on my own. I'm going to come back and I'm going to do my job. But it's crazy to me to this day still how happy it can make you and how easy it is to draw that energy out. Like, some days I'm like, there's no way that playing a show is going to make me feel better right now. But then it just does. Like, it's not that I ever doubt that it will, but sometimes, when you're in the middle of going through something, it's hard to see how anything will make you feel better, let alone going up and jumping around and having to play your parts and all that. But then you start doing it and you're like, I feel better. It's weird. So like, getting to that show after we missed one was like, let me at him. Like, I'm fucking ready. I didn't want to just sit here yesterday. I wanted to do that. So let's do that now. And like, playing the show that night, like, we show up, we're meeting these bands for the first time and we're like, check out our stupid trailer. Like, thing is broken. And they're like, oh shit. And we're like, yeah, we're missing tomorrow, but then we'll be back. And then like, we just go have fun with our friends all night and like make a bunch of new friends. And then we're like, fuck, now we got to miss a show. Like, let's get back at it. Like, rough start, but it just got better. It set a standard for like, this is the shittiest thing that's going to happen. And then that was the shittiest thing that was going to happen. And it wasn't even that shitty. We got a dope ass new trailer out of it that we're way happier with, like, we got to like, I don't know. It was just cool. It's fine. You just kind of got to brush it off after a while. Like, we can either still get the job done and have a miserable time about it, or we can just be goofy about it and make memes and tell everybody that some stupid bullshit happened and that we're mad about it, but we're going to make it work. And then you just do,
That's awesome.
Good times. Everybody that's like thought about touring ever is like, God, that sounds terrible. But it's really like, it's really not, it's harder than hell, but like, you're going to do hard stuff at home too. So I don't know.
The only upside though is when I'm at home, I can sleep in my own bed and I don't have to sleep on a little bench seat in the middle of a minivan.
Valid. That's valid. It's valid. We see that was the thing that we figured out very early is we were like, we need to create a moving apartment for ourselves so that we can have something comfy. And so we can also have something familiar because you sleep better when you got something familiar every night. Yeah. So like we've gotten to the point where like, yeah, we love a hotel, but we'll sleep in the van. If let's say we have a 30-day tour and there's 3 off days, those are probably the 3 days we'd get a hotel. And then everything else is in the van. Maybe a friend's house, but mostly the van. Because like we've made it our spot, you know, you just like, we built our trailer out so that we have like space to unpack, and like we each have a locker that we designed so that you can hang your shirts up, and you have a towel drying rack, and you have space to put your luggage, and you have like hooks that you can hang your shit on. And then we built out all these things so that everything goes in and comes out the same way every single night, and it just makes our life like we just basically from the start have been like, how easy can we make it for ourselves? And then the older we get, the more we figure out how to make it easy for ourselves. Like a couple tours ago, we picked up a 5G unlimited like wireless router. So now we have pretty much like high-speed internet in the van anywhere we go. And that's just improved morale to like an extent that I can't even describe. Like, it is so funny when I'm driving and there's 4 people on their Nintendo Switches catching dubs in Fortnite behind me, and we're in the middle of nowhere. They're like, oh, there's a dude on me, team on me, and then they're like, yeah, squad wipe. And I'm like, bro, we're in the middle of Kansas. How the hell are you doing that? You know? I don't know.
That's wild to think about. I mean, could you imagine back in the 80s, some small band is touring in their van, and what do they have to do? Like, there is no Nintendo Switch at that point.
I think about that a lot. And I guess, like, I've always had smartphones while touring, but like we toured very bare bones for a while. Like, so I guess like you do find things to do. You can only stare at your phone for so long, but like I think about that all the time. The biggest thing I think about is like, dude, it would have been so annoying to route your tour to like on the ground. You're like, you got to go in this one. And I'm like, really? Now I got to pay attention to the signs. Now I just have a glowing little screen on my dashboard that's like, shows me a cool blue line that just traces out a route that it already made, and I didn't have to do anything. I'm like,
keep right to exit 452.
Exactly. Dude, the best part is I don't even listen to him. I turn the sound off. I'm like, dude, people in the 80s are like, man, I wish they would have somebody narrate the sound to me. And now I'm like, having somebody narrate the sound to me is fucking annoying. How about just show it to me then? Oh, first world problems. Right? Like, our biggest problem now is like we blow fuses all the time in the van. So like we were driving home and we literally tacked on 30 minutes on our drive just so that we could fix our radio because we didn't want to go without music. And we were like we were driving up a mountain and everything goes boom, and like all the gauges died. Everything on the dash died, and I was like, God, this happens all the time. I don't want to deal with this shit right now. You just pull off in the mountains.
For you, Gage.
I'm so sorry.
Got to see.
But dude, we just literally, it was like just picking out fuses. Like, that one burnt. Nope. That one burnt. Nope. And it was just a random fuse that blew that happened to take that one out too. And so just casually swapping it out on the side of the freeway, and you're back on the road. But it's much easier with like phones. I'm also like, yo, how did you guys like do anything on tour without like communication with each other? Like, oh, can you stop at this payphone? Like, I need to call the booking agent and hope that he picks up.
I can't even imagine. That would be. It was bad enough because like when we were on tour, I didn't have a smartphone yet, so it was very boring. Just sitting there on my really shitty like LG, one of the sliding phones.
Yep.
Yeah,
You're like paying $5 a minute to go on the internet to read like a shitty article because you're so bored.
It was so bored. We would always basically get to we try to get to the venue as early as possible, and then we just like walk around. Like the show we played with you at up in Seattle, we were there in town for, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours before the show.
Dude, you know what's funny?
Go for it.
We were too.
Yeah. Did you?
And we looked up the street.
Yeah, that was an interesting day.
Dude, it was weird. I feel like that show started early because there were 8 billion bands on it.
Yeah, it was. God, that was a long show.
Oh my god, dude!
Like 6 p.m. or something. It was.
I have the poster from that show somewhere.
Yeah, I have photos of like the shitty little printout we had on the wall.
I have the physical poster that I took from the venue that day.
That's awesome.
Oh, dude. Let me look in one place and see if it's there.
Go for it.
Oh my god, this is amazing.
I love this so much.
It's such a different pace than we're used to because
That's the El Corazon.
there's so much it's almost like the Liana Rupert show because she just had so many stories and fun things to talk about that had nothing to do with video games. It was all about her military journeys, right? And this is what that reminds me of. It's like just all the different stories he has from touring Canada and the United States, and this is amazing.
Let me tell you
having
about
so much fun.
That show at El Corazon where we met the guy that I'm assuming was on crack that we met. It was yeah.
Dude, I literally.
This is our poster. Hopefully he can find it.
That's awesome.
That's the wall at the venue. It's pretty dope.
I literally had someone out in front of my my shop the other day that was just smoking off a crack pipe, just on the highway, throwing trash on the highway. I assume they were trying to get arrested because they, wanted a nice, room and a meal or something, because they were just doing everything to get themselves incarcerated. There were other things he was doing that I'm not going to talk about. But
trust me, the dude that we saw. So yeah, when we were, did you find the poster?
Oh, dude.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yo.
Holy, we didn't even have our name change yet. We were still Dead Eyes of the Dark. Nobody updated the poster before we went on.
You guys were visionary at the show.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. That was us. We ended up playing like third or fourth because like that band opened. They played second. They played third. We played fourth, and then your tour package went on.
Yeah, I think it was us. Then Tragedy went. I think Until the Sunrise.
They headlined. I think
they were the
hometown boys. Yeah.
To be fair, though, that's
I could do you one better. At the wristband too.
Holy shit, dude, that's awesome.
I know, right?
That is awesome. The only thing I remember from that night is almost getting a concussion, so that was fun.
Yeah, that show got rowdy, dude. I found a whole shitload of my old tour laminates too. Nice. I didn't find all of them, but I found a whole bunch of them. It's so funny. This was the first tour I ever did with a band called For the Likes of You. We had like a naked grandpa on it. All access to fucking what? The venue, the bar that you can just walk into.
I like the V-shaped dip in that logo with the Y going down with the U.
Yeah, dude, that band, they just called it quits this week. They've been quiet for a few years. They just finally released this EP they've had. And dude, it's so sick. But it had me looking back on some of my old, I did my first 2 tours with that band, like us and them. And so just looking back, it was so funny. Dude, I have some old tour videos somewhere that are just so cringy, and it's so fucking hilarious looking back on it. Yeah, see, here's the second tour with them.
Nice.
Yeah, and then there's just a bunch of other random things everywhere. That one's Ryan Cabrera. That one was really funny. You guys know who that is?
I have no idea.
He's the guy that sang "On the Way Down, I Saw You" back in the 2000s. Had the big. I'll send it to you. Know it if you heard it, dude. Probably. It's fucking. It's quintessential to the American experience in 2000 and whatever. Then this was our first tour back from COVID.
Ooh.
And that's our van.
Nice.
Anyway,
Some great logo changes over the years. I like that.
thank you. Yeah, we finally settled on. Oh God, I think I have all of them. Yeah, this was when we were Avoid the Void. Very cool. That. Where's our old logo? That was when we were. That was our first logo as a Void.
Yeah.
And then now we're that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sweet.
I mean, you could probably. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be on the podcast. It's kind of cut off, but you guys can kind of see right there. That's our visionary shirt with.
Oh, let's go! I remember that shirt.
I forgot.
I remember that shirt.
But he's eating somebody because we had a song called Bowser, and it was probably our heaviest song.
I listened to that song. Like I remember that song.
God damn.
Battle Pass.
Music.
Ooh.
Nice. Yeah, we never got any cool laminates. We'd always just show up and they'd be like, "You want one of the bands?" Yeah. Okay.
Well, the reason we have them is because we wanted to have mementos most of the time. Like, fucking nobody used them. We still had wristbands on.
That's smart.
You know, what the hell bar is gonna be like, yeah, man, like, all right, these 5 dudes are gonna use laminates, and the 10 people that showed up are gonna have wristbands. Like, give them a wristband too. I get it. Now they're like, they work on like the bigger tours. They definitely are your ticket to anything. Like, you won't, like, if you leave your laminate in the green room, you're like, some places they'll remember you after a few times, but other places it's like, better figure it out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we never had that problem.
I've definitely, yeah. It's definitely been like a, oh, I forgot my laminate, and it's like, it works. Cool. On the nights where laminates work, you're like, you don't forget because you're like, finally,
right? Yeah.
This works. Like, we were thinking about printing like ones that said like some access or something.
That'd be great.
Which I thought would be funny.
Yeah, the venues would have no idea what to do with that. They'd be like, "What the?"
Like, I guess you can go some places.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not allowed to use the restroom or something. Like, what the hell does some access mean?
Who knows, man?
Oh my god.
That's funny.
Yeah, just hearing you talk about that's bringing back a lot of memories of that tour as well. The one that
it's funny. Yeah. Like, once you crack the seal, it's like everything comes back.
Yeah, it's weird though, because like, I mean, obviously you're still doing that stuff. Like, you guys are still making music and touring and stuff, but I'm not. Like, we only did that for maybe 2 years, and then that was it.
Yeah. So
it's been 9 years since my last show, and whenever I remember that, I'm like, oh right, I was in a band. That's pretty cool.
Well, like, dude, the thing is like, it still doesn't feel all that much different. Like, a couple hundred shows down the road, you're like, oh yeah, I was in a band. Like, that's pretty cool. And then you're like, oh yeah, like, I guess I still do that, but it feels so different now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it feels like a whole different world, and that's not even necessarily off of like the growth of a band. It's just, as you get older, your reasoning for doing it can change. Anything around it can change, because like, as you grow as a person, like, you grow with your hobbies, you know, and you grow with your career path. Like, when this started, I didn't know what to call it. Now it's like a career path, you know, but it's definitely like I don't know. It's weird because you look back and it definitely still, it's that same kind of disconnect where it's just so long ago at this point and things are so much different that like, oh yeah, like that happened, you know?
Yeah. Well, I want to kind of rewind it. I want to tell the story about the guy we met in Seattle, just because I haven't told this on the show, and I wrote this down probably a year and a half ago. It's like, you know, next time we do a podcast or something, if this pops up, I want to make sure I tell this story. So it's the day of the show in Seattle. It's probably, I don't know, noon, 1 p.m., something like that. We're just walking around. We go to Pike's place. We do the usual stuff.
No S there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Wait. Not to interrupt the story, but when you say that joke, does that mean it's Pike Place?
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just being the.
I'm like from Washington. I've been to Seattle so much, but like I still love Pike's Place just out of like.
I've become the Seattle man that I hate out of irony, and now it's happening on purpose. And truly, I don't know how to reverse it. Continue, dude. I found myself coming home from the climbing gym, stopping at PCC, getting a pasta salad, and then I unlocked my Subaru Outback, and everything made sense. I was like, I've become one, and I got psyoped into it by living here. Oh my god. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue. You met a dude in Seattle.
That was good. So, obviously doing my daily tour routine of spending, an hour on the toilet because I wasn't getting sleep, and I was living off of Cheerios, so that was fun. And my god,
dude,
if you go to Pike Place, pray you don't have to use their restrooms. Their stalls are about 2 feet tall, and everybody can see you.
I am an average height adult, and somebody that is sub-average height could still see you on accident. I'm not looking, dude. It's right here.
It's just eye contact the whole
and
time.
The people that go to Pike Place don't know that, so they're just like looking at the stall and they're like, oh. But by the time, by the 40th person, you're like, I don't care anymore.
It was like busy time, so it was kind of packed, and I just remember just this one guy. I swear, we connected probably 10 times.
Oh no, the one guy.
One guy just standing there waiting. I'm sorry, dude.
How's your progress, man? You good?
It was an interesting time.
My dude was trying to put down a timer on you. He's like,
Should I call someone? Do you need some help? Just want to make sure you're okay.
Doer and Cheerios. This guy's crazy. I'm leaving him alone.
That was
Honey Nut or regular, man,
Oh god, it was regular. Holy shit.
Oh,
dude.
that's rough.
It was just dry. That and dry top ramen and peanut butter. Like jars of peanut butter. Like that was what we ate.
Why does top ramen and peanut butter go so well together when it's dry?
I don't understand, dude. Like I don't know if it's actually good or if it was just because that was all we had.
Dude, no, I did that once when I was in elementary school, and I had plenty of other food to eat, and I was like, yo, this fucks. Actually, no, this like older dude who I was at the snowboarding thing with, he was like probably 20 or 18 or something, and he's like, total stoner, and he was like, dude, you know what you gotta try? You gotta take like one of the like things of the ramen, don't use the packet. Keep it dry, put peanut butter on it, and drip some sriracha on it, and then try that. So we tried it, and it tasted really good to two 8th graders that really badly wanted to be stoners, but were too scared to smoke weed. So we convinced ourselves it was tight. Anyway, I'm so sorry, dude. I'm just doing tangents off of your shit right now.
No,
I can't stop, my guy.
So Ryder, this is the whole point of this show. This is all about you. This entire show is about you and your stories and you having fun. So anytime you want to interrupt with a fun fact about yourself, just drop it, man. You're good.
Dude.
You're all good.
Bet. Let's go.
So it was sometime after that. I think we were just walking around. We still got like 2 or 3 hours to kill before we were even going to go to the venue. And we're just sitting on a bench somewhere in, downtown Seattle area, just hanging out. It's just us 4 on a bench, whatever. This guy walks up and, he looks a little bit disheveled. He's kind of walking a little, like he's not sober.
Like the horror movie walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very familiar.
And he
I worked on 2nd, like half a mile down from Pike Place for like 4 years as a valet. So I worked outside. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've probably interacted with that guy before, whoever he was.
Probably.
Why is it always 2nd Street? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know, man, but it always is.
No matter where you are, it's always 2nd Street.
Here it's 1st Street. Like that's where you go if you want, illegal
illicit activities.
Yes. So like this guy, speaking of illicit activities, like this guy stops and he's like, first of all, his like introduction or whatever, he just starts talking to us, and like, I don't, with me and our guitarist John, I don't think he really commented much. He looks at our drummer Carl, who's like,
I remember that guy.
Yeah, like kind of long hair. He's got glasses. He's got like a.
I have a snapshot of what he looked like in that time period. Because I remembered we like were kind of friends around that, like from that show, because
yeah,
I don't know, anyway, I know exactly what he looks like at that point.
Yeah. So he's dressed in a very like interesting way, I guess you could say. And so this guy stops and he like looks at him and he starts talking to us, and then for whatever reason he eyeballs Carl and just goes, "Hey man, you need to stop dressing like a homosexual."
Whoa!
Oh my god!
What?
We're all just like we're just kind of stunned. We don't know what's going on. We're like, what? And he looks at Jesse. Like, obviously, Luke knows Jesse. He was our vocalist. Big dude. Like, he's half Native American, half Hispanic. Like, he's a big guy, and like he looks like he could fuck you up. You know, he's just like. So the guy's looking at him. He's like, "You're pretty big. Stand up." Jesse stands up. He goes, "Damn, you's a big motherfucker." So Jesse sits back down, and this guy just switches on a dime, and he's all of a sudden just like, "Hey, so my cousin or his brother or some shit, I don't fucking remember. It's like he owns a dispensary. Like, you guys wanna, you guys like." We get you guys hooked up. You guys can like come out here on the corner and like, you know, make some money or whatever. Like, you know, we got the hookup or whatever. And we're just like, no, we're good. Like,
so the dude comes out swinging and is like, "Anyway, man, you want to do me and yourself a favor?"
Immediately.
I was like,
it was just,
dude.
I mean, in hindsight, it was like the funniest fucking thing later that night. It was hilarious.
You're all just like, "Yo, you remember when that dude tried to roast us?"
It doesn't end there. So he's trying to like get us to do this, and we're just like, no, we're good, we're good, whatever. We finally were just like, we just gotta leave because he's not gonna stop. So we get up and we start walking away or whatever, and he's like, "Okay, whatever." I don't remember if he was like pissed at us leaving or just didn't care or whatever. We get maybe, I don't even know. We're 100 feet away. We barely started leaving. We turn around and look, and this dude's just standing there on the sidewalk, broad daylight, just pissing on a car. Just,
Oh,
yeah.
oh my god, that is classic, dude.
And I was like, this is the most Seattle thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Dude, it's the same thing I'm talking about, or I was talking about earlier with shit going wrong with the van. Is the more time you spend in a place, the more you're gonna see exactly what happens. So I spent 4 years standing in Pioneer Square, essentially people watching while parking other cars and shit. But like, dude, it really goes hard sometimes. I remember one time and I was like, what the hell is happening down the street? And I was by myself at work. I was like, all right, I don't care if anybody pulls up. I got to go see what's going on here. And there was one dude on drugs holding a 10-foot metal pole. And then there was another dude on drugs with a trash can that he ripped off the sidewalk, like the big metal motherfuckers. And he's swinging it around, and the dude with the pole's trying to beat the shit out of the other guy to get him to stop. And I'm just sitting here watching some sort of strange mixed martial arts between the two for about 5 minutes. Just like, oh, the dude with the pole seems to have lost. Oh, nope. He got the pole back. All right, that's good. Oh, the guy with the trash can is now throwing it. He's throwing it. And the guy with the pole is still trying to get him to stop. All right. Noted. Another time, I was literally walking back from parking a car because our garage was a block and a half away. And I was making my corner. I glance over to a dude that's like bent over behind like this like newspaper stand. I just looked at him, and he's like smoking hard drugs out of some tinfoil. It's literally zero judgment from me. I don't care. I'm like, all right, bro. Like, cool, whatever. go. But I look at him and just sets him off, and he's like, "Don't fucking look at me." And I'm like, "Hey, yo, like what?" And he's like, "Don't fucking look at me." I was like, "Okay, whatever, man. Like you do you. Like I'm gonna go back over here now." So I walk back over. I'm standing at my little post, and this dude finishes up his little session and like walks across the street towards me, and, like pulls this little mask up, and like walks by me all aggressive, and he's like, "I'll fucking stab you." And I was like,
Jesus.
I learned that day how I would respond, and I'm very lucky I didn't get stabbed because I just started laughing at him. Like he's like, "I'll fucking stab you," and the first thing that comes out of my mouth is me just going, "Okay," like just laughing at him, like, "Yeah, sure, buddy." And it just reminds me of that meme that's like, "Yeah, try me." Guy that just got stabbed, and I was like, "Oh man!" Like I did primal. I was like 19 or 20, so prime dickhead Luke, and just fucking laughing at this dude who's insanely high, threatening to stab me, and probably would have a good time doing so. When the whole time I was like, "I don't care, man. I don't care what you're doing. Please don't stab me. Like, thanks." Like that was a pretty tame experience in comparison to like a bunch of my coworkers. But like again, like I'd say that the net positive experiences that I had with like we were right next to the shelter. Like the net positive experiences was like in the green for sure. Like a lot of good people that are just like bucked over on the street. Sometimes they'll try to stab you, but you got to take that with a grain of salt.
I forgot the best part of my story.
Oh, hit me with it.
Oh God. Like when he's introducing himself to us, he's bragging about how he got out of prison like recently, and he's like, I just got out of the penitentiary, like I'm an OG.
Ooh.
No. I'm a triple OG. What the fuck are you talking about, dude?
Yeah, that's Pike Place activity for sure.
God.
Dude, like my most memorable story from Pike Place is what I'm fairly certain I can't tell on a stream. Unless I can, but
I mean,
it's not like super bad, but it was definitely like watching somebody do their thing but insanely high on drugs and not realizing that there were other people around. Okay, so basically
Wait. So for your protection, make sure you don't say any names of the people you're about to talk about. You should be fine.
I got no names.
we're also not monetized, so we can't get.
I also have no fucking idea who this person was.
Perfect.
Anyway,
You're
There
good.
we go.
So there was a whole bunch of people hanging out like under this tree on this little grassy hill in Pike Place, right behind the market. It's like probably a similar area to where you were. I'll bet you if I took you to one of the area I'm thinking of, it's exactly where you were.
Probably. Probably.
So that's like the it's a spot. It's for sure a spot. Like hella chill. I don't care. Like everybody there's always vibing. Don't care. Do your thing. Except this one person. I'm walking out of the market, and my girlfriend at the time, her sister is in town, and like they're chilling. They're like they've seen it all. But she goes, "Oh my God, what the fuck?" And I'm like, "What?" And I look over, and there's somebody in their sleeping bag. There's a couple adjectives I could probably use to describe this, so I'll probably just toss a couple out there. Aggressively, theatrically, really high on methly, kind of doing like this whole exorcist looking thing, beating off in their sleeping bag in front of everybody. Like just right there, man. Like pretty much on the bench of this popular walking spot. And she's like, "Oh my God, I can't look at that." And me, I was like, "Yo, this is the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. I'm gonna see this through for a second. Like, check this out. Yo, you gotta see this right here. You seeing this shit right now?" Like, just because like I'm just egging her up. I'm just like, "Yo, check that out. Check that out." And finally, I didn't intend to see this part, but suddenly the theatrics stop, and they just get up, and then I knew what I had just seen. And I really, really wish that I had listened to her and left. But I thought it was so fucking funny, dude. Oh my god. I was like, let's go, dude. Like, get it, you know? Like, get after it. But it was gnarly. It's actually like one of those things burned into my brain, and I think I tell the story just to try to pass that trauma to other people.
Honestly, you did just kind of unlock another memory for me that
Oh no!
It wasn't a pure memory. It wasn't quite that.
Dude,
bad.
if this unlocks a memory, then I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do here.
Memory unlocked.
It was I don't want to get too deep into it because like this guy, it's a bit different. Like this guy clearly had like mental
things going on. He
needed help.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna give like specific details, but I worked somewhere, and this guy would come in all the time, clearly like a homeless guy, whatever. And yeah, one day he just like the pants he was wearing were very baggy, and he wasn't wearing underwear. So he's just walking around the store, and at one point he's just he's walking and the pants are just like around his knees, and he's like trying to pull them up with one hand, and it's like I didn't need to see.
I know what I'm looking at, and I don't want to see it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Was it at a grocery store by chance?
No, a different kind of store.
Interesting. I understand.
Yes.
I saw a lot of awful things as a high schooler working at a grocery store just off like the main drag in North Seattle.
I mean, you'll know where it was at.
It's
the place that I was working at when you saw me like 4 years ago or something. You were in town and happened to see me working at a place. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like it's the secret, but I just don't want to like name the place because it's, you know.
Why dox yourself when you don't have to, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't give a shit. Fuck them. But
anyway, my address. No, I'm just
I just like how on this one podcast we've had 3 stories about men doing outlandish things in public.
Almost
I
like
guess four stories.
Yeah.
Common denominator ? I mean, I'm shit at math, but I think I understand something.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gnarly.
McKenna, your story. Where is it?
It's the same McKenna. We haven't heard.
You're the only one that hasn't had a story yet.
No, you want a story?
Well, let's go.
I can tell stories.
Yes,
okay.
Let's get a McKenna story.
Oh wait, do you want a specific? Am I really about to tell a story? What kind of story do you want? What kind of story do you want?
Just a story. We need a McKenna story on the show. We've had stories from all of us, so let's get one.
Let me tell you about my 17 hours in Iceland.
There we go.
Oh, let's go.
Actually, it was more than 17 hours, but we'll get there. All right, so I was in London over the summer, and then I had to go back home for school. I had a layover in Iceland. It was an overnight layover, 17 hours to be exact. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go see some puffins. So I landed in Iceland.
Might as well.
Exactly. I'm not
when
just gonna sit there.
When in Iceland, one must go see puffins.
Exactly.
Agreed. 100%.
I think I heard that somewhere. I don't know.
It's a written rule when you actually get your passport stamped, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I had my passport here, I would show, but you know, it's at home. But so I went, landed overnight, got a hotel room, woke up, and the puffin. Okay. So it was supposed to be at 9:30. I was supposed to be at the boat at 9:30. There was a group of us. But I had to be at the transportation place by 9. And obviously, I've never been in Iceland before. I don't know how it works. So I was like looking up bus stuff. And I thought I had it all figured out when I went to bed. I woke up at 6 a.m. the next day. And I double checked. I didn't actually have it all figured out. And the bus was leaving in like 30 minutes. So I had to scramble and get all my stuff. Because obviously I was checking out. I was gonna go right back to the airport then. So I collected all my belongings. go on the bus. It's about a 45-minute into the capital, Reykjavik, and apparently I forgot how buses worked, and I missed my stop.
Iceland buses are different, all right?
Yeah, no. They are different. It's wild. Missed my stop, and I was like, oh, man, I'm not going to see the puffins. I missed the time slot to go to the transportation, so now I'm sadly walking through Reykjavik with all my belongings, not seeing puffins in a city I don't know.
Also, I'm so sorry. I just learned how to pronounce. I've read that city 8 billion times. I never knew how to say it. It's Reykjavik. Got it.
Yeah, it's...
Right, continue.
It's just a bunch of letters thrown together. It's
Whole language is a bunch of letters thrown together, and I really want to learn it because it's sick. I'm like, yo.
Yeah, exactly.
Eila Fjalli Jökull or whatever. That thing from that movie. Walter Mitty. He went there. Oh, that was cool. Good movie. Sorry, I'm just spending this whole. I'm just fucking it all up. I want to hear the story. I'm just gonna.
It's great. So I'm like, okay, I may as well go to the bus stop, and then maybe I'll be able to get back to the airport and just sit in the airport for 8 hours or whatever. So I'm walking through Iceland. I get to the bus stop, and then I see a van with puffins on the side of it, and I was like, oh my god, maybe they know how to get to the puffins. So the person.
This sounds like a horror movie waiting to happen.
This is the best.
It's like instead of a candy van, instead of a candy or balloon van where somebody's handing out balloons, they're like standing out in the back. They're like, "Do you want to see puffins? Do you want to see puffins?"
Wow. No, well, buckle up. So I'm like working up the courage to go inside and ask, like, "Hey, how do I see the puffins?
Do you want to see puffins?"
And this guy comes out. And he sees me looking at the van, and he's like, "Are you McKenna May?" And I was like, "Yes." And he goes, "Let's go see puffins."
Wait, what?
He came out, he knew your name, and he actually said, "Do you want to go see puffins? We go now."
So
Take my hand.
Essentially, I got this van. I was the only other person in the van. I went to this place. There was like a nice, cute puffin inflatable outside the office.
Did you sign up for something?
I did, yeah.
Like, okay.
I did, yeah.
I'm like,
okay. This just took the heat off. I was like, dude, you can never go back to Iceland. They know.
I was thinking here it was like some divine intervention, like someone smiled down upon you from the heavens and was like, McKenna needs some help. She needs some puffins in her life.
Take my hand. We will go with the puffins now.
And that I did. So, got on this boat with maybe 15 other people. I went and saw puffins for an hour. It was great. But my flight didn't leave until like 5. So then I wandered. I was back to wandering around Iceland. I walk into them like, oh, I want to go get some food. So I walk into this one cafe. Nothing's in English. There's barely anyone in there. There's no behind the counter. I did a 360 and I walked right back out to go find somewhere else because I shut down. So I left and then I found.
Understandable.
Yeah, exactly.
I would do the same thing.
Yeah, it was terrifying. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. So I find this other cafe. It was great. It was a great deal. You got a bagel, a donut, and a soda. Wonderful. Anyway, I digress. All the circle foods.
That's the best.
Wait, was that just for walking in, or was that something that you ordered?
I did have to pay for it.
Okay.
But that would have been great if I didn't have to. That was breakfast. That was breakfast.
Yeah, welcome to Iceland. Here's a couple circle foods and something to wash it down with.
We have really cheap healthcare, and here's your donut and your bagel and your soda.
Yeah, and
it's like Iceland rations.
Right. Exactly. It was living the life. So then, now I gotta get back to the airport. I mean, I still had a few hours, but I was like, if we know how the first time when the bus went. So I'm like, okay, walking to the bus stop. And I had to transfer buses, okay? So I thought, okay, cool. Get on the bus. I got this down now. No. I don't got this down. You have to download an app to pay for it and everything. I've never been in Iceland before. I don't have the app. The kind bus driver let me sit down and get the app and everything paid for it. He was great. I transferred buses. Now, at this point, I did have it down for real. I walked on the bus. He goes, "Where are you going?" I go to the airport. He goes, "Yeah!" And I paid. I got on the bus. It was fantastic. So then I got to the airport. I got there like 4 or 5 hours early. I met this nice Icelandic lady, helped her go on the internet, had some really shitty fish and chips. I'm going. Yeah, of course. So I'm going through to the international terminal, long line. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not gonna make it, even though I had however many hours. So I get through, whatever, get down, see people are lining up to at the gate. And I was like, oh sweet, it's a go time, So standing there, I get a notification, oh, flight was delayed 15 minutes. That's fine. That's whatever. A little bit later, flight delayed another 15 minutes. That's okay.
Totally fine.
Another 15 minutes. Okay.
No, that's...
Gate was switched.
now you're fucked.
End of the hall. It got delayed 4 hours. People were like, it's gonna get canceled, and I'm like, it's my dad's birthday, I gotta get back. I made it back to the
Greyhound.
States. I should have taken the
Greyhound.
Look, I'm not saying it's fun, but I'm saying you'll fucking end up there at some point, alright?
I should have.
The Icelandic Greyhound.
I would have, especially, I got buses down at that point. I would have taken any bus at that point.
Well, and if you missed your flight, some nice guy would have been like, come with me, I'll take you to the Puffins, and then we'll go to America.
Exactly. It would have been great. I would have had a great time. So I get on the flight. I make it back in the States 11:45 p.m. I made in time for my dad's birthday by 15 minutes. I had a Wawa sub. It was great. I went to bed. And that was my 17 plus hours in Iceland.
That's a lot packed into a small amount of time.
Now,
I've never been
McKenna,
more exhausted in my life.
I'm so sorry. Can you give me 2 seconds? I'll be right back.
So McKenna, I obviously know what a Wawa sub is. I of course know what that is.
Everybody on the West Coast, of course, knows what a Wawa sub is.
Everybody knows it's boring.
Yeah, everybody. So, but for those who may not know, those people in Iceland watching Puffins, what is a Wawa
they
sub?
only have circle foods over there. Yes, a Wawa sub. It's a gift from the gods. So it is a Wawa. Okay. All right. Buckle up. All right. So you're on the East Coast. Okay. Now there are technically 2 main gas stations. You got Sheetz, which is the West Coast of Pennsylvania, and a little bit. Speaking in terms of Pennsylvania, West Coast is Sheetz, East Coast East part is Wawa. It's a gas station.
And then Buc-ee's is Superior.
Buc-ee's. I want to go to a Buc-ee's so bad. I love gas stations.
While I was upstairs, I grabbed a friend too. If you guys wanted to meet her.
Is that a Puffin?
Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah. Now we get to see a puppy and learn what Wawa's is.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what it is, but everyone else gets to know.
You guys want a surprise? Check this out. She only has one eye.
Oh my goodness.
Oh God, she's adorable.
This is my baby Peanut.
Hello, Peanut.
She's a crowd favorite. The people at the mini mart down the way give her treats, and she likes them for that.
No, she's very cute.
That's so cute.
It's Manuel, sweetheart.
Oh.
No.
I have a cat somewhere too, but he just got some stitches yesterday. So he's kind of being skittish and hiding under every bed he can find. And also, I can't keep his cone on him to save his life because he's an asshole. He actually got hurt by being an asshole. So not from me.
Circle.
He got out and tried to fight another animal.
Another cat.
And,
That's very common.
Yeah, I mean, he does this all the time, and usually he comes back with some sort of like a little. I grew up with outdoor cats. I know what's serious and what's not. But this one, like, he got out when I was in Vegas on my way home from tour, and I get home the next day, and I just like hanging out with him. I don't even notice anything. A couple days pass, and I pick him up, and I feel something weird under my thumb, and I'm like, that's fucked up. Like, that doesn't feel like I've never felt that, and I pick you up all the time. So I like lay him down and I like look under his arm, and like right the equivalent of like right here, he has a big cut like that long, and it's just open. And it wasn't infected. It had already done all of its like draining, I guess. But
Yeah,
a couple of
abscess.
yeah, which was really good. But like I left it for a day, and I was like, okay, what would I do? Like, what should I do here? Because like I've never had him actually get hurt. He wasn't showing like even when I picked him up like that, he didn't react. He didn't notice, and he's like totally chill. So I like just slept on it, and I was like, like I don't know if that's stitches or not. And I like looked at it the next day when I got home from work, and I was like, fuck. Like I know it's been a week already because like I was gone. I didn't even realize it until almost like the day before, and I was like, I slept on it, and I was like, this just doesn't feel right. Like I called my mom. It's like, what would you do? And then my girlfriend works at a like a local like health like pet food store, so she actually has a lot of knowledge about it too, as do her coworkers, and kind of got just some like mixed reviews where it was like, all right, well, we're not really sure actually. So I just called this like animal hospital near me. They were like, well, we're not booking till next weekend, but we can get you in tomorrow at 2 because like we'd like to look at him. And they were so good, and got me in the next day, and they were like, yeah, we want to get some stitches, because I was like, well, if I had that cut, I would want stitches, like. And I also just, it's on his torso. I don't want any chance of infection. That's my little boy. So
yeah, it's a hard one because it's right at where he kind of stretches his arms and stuff. So it's really hard for it to heal. That's you made the right call for sure.
Yeah, but it was weird. It was like the first time where I was like, okay, well, like he's gone out and gotten hurt before and come home and been a little shook up and like slept it off. And like, it was weird because he showed zero sign of being hurt. And then I found it and I was like, oh my fucking God, I'm going to freak out. And then I was like, well, if you're not freaking out, I'm not freaking out. So let's just figure this out. And we got him back yesterday, and he's immediately went back to his little shithead self. So I know he's fine. He's somewhere else right now. I don't know where he's at. Otherwise, I didn't. Yeah,
cats are wild, man. They'll get in a fight and then they'll just disappear for like a week because they'll go sulk if they lost, or
dude, I had
happy and confident if they won.
Well, dude, I had a cat once growing up. He's still alive. His name's Rookie, and he went missing for like a week when I was a senior in high school, I think, or a junior. And we found him on our neighbor's like low roof, like just like he had just crawled off to die because like he got his ass handed to him by something. Like he still can't see. He like lost an eye as well. Like it's still there, but he lost vision. Like he was pretty racked up, and somehow my neighbors noticed him and they were like, yo, like, we know he's been missing. Here he is. He's not doing well. Get him in. We took him in and he made full recovery, and he's still an asshole to this day. And he's like old as hell now. It's hilarious. I love him. Every time I go over, I piss him off. I just pick him up and I'm like, all right, dude, I see you like rarely. You need to hang out with me. And he just will. He'll give me like some kisses and stuff. And
oh, that's awesome.
That's what's up. But yeah, my little cat Boots, when he's not recovering from whatever and like kind of mad at me for making him go through that, he like I'll be sitting here like playing like on my computer, and he'll jump either between my arm and my like side, or jump over and in between my arms, just sit in my lap. Like I can't keep him away from me. He's just like little best friend ever. Such a cutie.
Awesome.
Nice.
Hopefully he makes an appearance, but yeah, he's pretty mad at me for making him get stitches.
Yeah, cats can be very moody about stuff like that.
Yeah, like usually when I come home from tour, he won't pay any attention to me till I get in bed that night, and then he'll just like jump on my chest and like headbutt my face 8 billion times and make it hard for me to do anything.
That's hilarious.
That was a great tangent, but I have no idea where we were before that.
Well, real quick, let's get some Wawa subs out here so we can figure out what that is.
Thank you.
Because we were doing something like West Coast sheets in Pennsylvania.
Western part of Pennsylvania you got sheets. Eastern part you got Wawa. Personally, I think Wawa has a superior sub. It's all in the bread. That's where it is. But yeah, Wawa is a gas station where you get made to order food, and it's magical, and they have everything there. So
it's true. You go up to a little screen. You don't have to say anything to anybody. You pick what you want. You customize it how you want. May I stress that you don't have to talk to anybody.
Yes, that's my favorite part.
And then you get a little receipt with a barcode, and you get the rest of the shit you want. And also, their regular stock of snacks and drinks is superior to almost every other gas station besides Buc-ee's. And go to Buc-ee's, you'll know what I mean.
I need to go.
Oh, dude, you can go there.
Is Buc-ee's the Beaver?
Yes, dude, and you can go there and you can get barbecue that's on par with the best barbecue you've ever had in your life. And it's a gas station.
That's a dream.
Just saying. And they also have I can't even explain it. Just go. Anyway, I would go to Texas just to go to Buc-ee's to restock on snacks and come right home. Like, it's that good. But yeah, that shit slaps. You go up to the screen, I get my little BLT, I add my little crispy jalapenos to it, and I leave.
Yeah, it's great. And they just put in like self-checkout at the Wawa, one of the Wawas in Philly. So you really don't have to talk to anyone. It's fantastic.
That's dope.
It's great.
I really love Philly, by the way. That place is so fun. It's so weird.
It's a place.
Are you from there, or?
I'm from Harrisburg, but I go to school in Philly. I go to Temple. Yeah. So I've been here for 2 years. Yeah.
Cool. I've played a couple shows in. I haven't played in Philly proper. We've played in like Easton, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
At like, you know, the little circle, like in the middle of town, right across from the like the Lego or crayon place. The crayon place.
Did you go to the Crayola factory?
Fuck yeah! I think I got my socks right
Hell
here.
yeah! I still have all of my free shit I got from there.
Oh damn! I don't actually know where my socks are, but I got socks that make my little feet look just like a baby blue Crayola.
Yes!
I love that shit. But we played at
like-
One Center Square across the street from there a couple times.
Hell yeah.
Now, on the opposite spectrum of what we were talking about earlier as your worst experience, what's your best non-band related experience while on tour?
Oh.
Now I got to know. We're talking about all these different places that you've been.
Oh, that's
things
a
that you've
really
experienced.
cool question. Actually, that's a really cool question because it's so easy to lump in like, what's your best tour experience? And the first thing that you want to do is like, oh, okay, I'll talk about the music part of it. But like the non-band related experience, that's really cool. Honestly, there's always one on tour. Like, there's always one that will stand out. And if you're lucky, you get a couple. Like, the first one that jumps to mind is this day that we had. And it's hard to classify as, like, the best, but just it was the first time we'd done something like this. And, like, basically, there's this band called Dead Lakes. Listen to Dead Lakes. I used to... I played for them for, like, 5 shows. I was never in the band, but, like... I went on a tour with them, just like helping them out, and then I played a couple shows with them playing guitar, and that was years ago, and they've still kept grinding, and they're just killing it right now. And we finally got to tour together after like 5 or 6 years of like wanting to do it. We finally fucking put it together, and it was so fun. But we had this day in Arizona, and we went, and they had gone to this river float before when they did the tour before. We were like, yo, let's go do it again. And we'd never done it. And it's just outside of Phoenix. It's called the Salt River Float. My shirt from it is somewhere. But we basically you show up, you give them $20, they give you an inner tube. You can get an inner tube that has a cooler in the middle. And you basically rope all yourselves together, and they put you in a bus, they take you up to the river, and you spend like 3 hours floating down the river. And like there's a bunch of these little things all the locals do to like make it fun, and like you float by all these wild horses that are just like walking into the water, and like you're getting within 10 feet of them, just like they're just doing their thing, and you're just vibing like, what's up, dude? Like we probably saw 20 wild horses just like grazing in the water and then going back up. It's gorgeous. And like it's hot as fuck. There's people posted up like with their little campsites just in the middle of the river, and then they'll just float it away. So we run out of beer really quickly. So I take it upon myself to find as many people that'll give me beer as I can. And I would do this by proposing a challenge to them. Usually, like one time I was playing catch, I was just throwing a football with some dude that was floating by, and I was like, he like threw it and I missed the catch. I was like, ah, shit. But you know what I'm better at catching? A beer that you threw to me. And then they threw a beer at me, and I was like, this is going to work all day long. So like every day I'd just drink them. I'd like put them in our little cooler. And then I'd float by somebody that I could see at a cooler. And I'd be like, yo, I got a challenge for you. And they're like, yeah, what's that? And I'm like, if you throw me a beer, I'll drink it. And like, I think I got like 6 beers from people floating down this river over time. I cut the shit out of my pinky on one of them. That's like, it's finally healing, but they're still like dead. It's still like scabbed over. He like spiraled it at me and I caught it, but the edge of the can dug into my pinky and pulled it open. And I was like, cool. Anyway.
Yeah, for beer.
That dude was tight. He threw me 2. The first one bounced off my hands. He's like, oh, I got to try again, I guess. Threw me another one. And I was like, sick. Only at 2 for 1. Let's go. But it was basically just hours of floating down a river with your friends and vibing and just like fucking around with people near you, trying to make conversation. Some of them will ice you out. Some of them are super friendly and like you just don't care. You get to the end of the river and you get out, you get in the bus and you go back down, and we did that, and then we went and played a show. And it was so tiring. All of us literally were peeling from the sunburns for 2.5 weeks.
Oh my god.
Because like we thought we put enough on, but we didn't take into account, like at least I didn't, that like when I'm sitting in the tube, I wear short ass shorts. My shorts come even higher when I'm sitting in a tube. So my thighs were just cooked. And like my feet were cooked. Yeah, like croc tans and shit. It was the best day ever. And like that just kicked off a couple days of absolutely no sleep and like absolute chaos. Like that night after that, I drove us, because we had to get to Vegas, because we had a show there and we had a day off before, so we wanted to hang out. And like, I drove us overnight that night. So wake up, river float, play show, pack up, drive to Vegas, sleep from 7:30 to 11:45, because my friend, one of my best friends, Zach, I drove from Phoenix to Vegas so he could hang out another day and like go karting and like party on the strip. Wake up at 11:30, go karting, go back to the house, get my shit, go check in at the hotel on the strip, get food, hang out for like an hour and a half, go to Top Golf, start partying, gamble for hours, meet up with other friends, big group, all hanging out. 5 a.m. rolls around, finally go to sleep at like 6, wake up at 10:45, suffer through the whole day of just being like, fuck my life. I forgot to sleep again. Shit. Like, make it through that whole situation, play the show, start driving home, still no sleep. Like, I really didn't set myself up for success, and it all started with the river float. But it was like the most fun couple days I could have imagined on a tour. And like, it was with our buddies that like we'd been waiting to tour with, and it was just special times. But that river float was dope. That was one of them for sure. That shit was like, that will always stand out as one of the best days I've ever had. Like, there's a cliff jumping spot like an hour and a half in, and I didn't want to wait for the line. So where everybody was climbing up the rope, like I just like took my Crocs, put like the hood over my mouth, and just like free climbed up the wall, which was super fun. And I like fell off the first 2 tries because I didn't have like, I was just not doing it right. And this other guy was like talking shit from the line. He's like, oh, I go to the climbing gym. Oh, I can climb. Like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, yeah, I do go to the climbing gym sometimes. And yes, I do think I can climb, which no, I actually can't. But right now you said that, so now I have to make this happen. So like, he climbed up to the top, and the dude that was about to jump was like, you gotta go now, dude. Like, you just climbed it. You deserve to go. And I like jumped in the water, and it was so much fun. Like, the dude was totally fucking with me at the bottom. Like, he was not being serious. I didn't take it that way either. So he was just being a dick, and I was like, all right, fine then. Like, and just like jump back in the water and just like keep on trucking down the river. And I was like, cool, that's like 5 things that I like. I like sitting in the water and floating around. I like climbing, and I like jumping off shit. And I like drinking. So all of these are cool. You know?
Yes.
11 out of 10.
11 out of 10 experience. Would absolutely recreate.
That's awesome.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was a good one. And then I don't know. It's like the random experiences. Sometimes you just drive somewhere cool, and you just like it. Oh, we love Area 51. Like we're not like conspiracy nuts about it. We're very much so in touch with reality that Area 51 is pretty much just a glorified military base now. But like, we love it. There's an eerie thing about being in the desert, and it's even eerier when you're next to something that you've spent your whole life reading about or like hearing about, and you're like, well, we're here. So we would drive down to Vegas, or whenever we would route down to Vegas, we would go out of our way to drive the extraterrestrial highway, which takes you pretty much right next to all the back gates of Area 51. There's this tiny little town called Rachel, Nevada, which is on my mouse pad. And there's like pretty much just like this middle of the fucking desert, nothing there type town where people just go. And it's a little offbeat, like there's a little alien themed motel. This is where the whole Storm Area 51 thing took place. But like we discovered it before that whole thing happened, and then that happened, and then it's pretty much still the same place. But like finally one year we were like, let's stay at the fucking hotel and see what's up. So we got a room on our way down to Vegas to shoot some music videos, and we carved out a day. We showed up, checked in, hung out, went to the bar, because the hotel's like pretty much your bartender is going to be the one that you're hanging out with outside after work. And like we start kicking it with the locals, and we get some food, and we're hanging. They're like, oh yeah, there's a big beautiful tree out front that people sit under. And they're like, oh, that's called the Tree of Knowledge. And we're like, why? And they're like, I don't know. Like, you sit out there, you'll always learn something. We're like, okay, cool. We love that shit. So night goes on, everybody's getting more drunk and hanging out, and we eventually find ourselves just sitting under this tree with eventually like the owner of the place, who we'd seen on all these interviews and we know about, and like the bartender, these couple drifters that had just like van lifers that had been, they're like, oh yeah, we showed up for a day and it's been a month. And so we stay up till 3 a.m. shooting the shit with them, just like having drinks, smoking weed, smoking cigarettes, just looking out into the distance. And we're so curious about all this. We've never spent time like this here. We're like, tell us stories. And they just start telling us stories. And it was just, some of it was like, oh, that was spooky. Some of it was like, oh, that's just a military jet that, like, I was talking shit to a pilot that rolled in here, and I was like, you guys don't fly low enough. And then this military jet like flew right over their parking lot. Like, had to tip a wing to miss the flagpole in the parking lot type low. And like the same day we got there, they were like, oh yeah, like this guy over here, like literally earlier this week just went over with his tractor and plowed into his field, fly lower pussies, so that all the planes from the Air Force would start flying lower.
Oh
like,
my
literally so sick. And so we're like, yo, we want to go to the back gate. Like, we have a van and trailer. Can we still turn around up there? They're like, oh yeah. And we're like, we're kind of nervous. Y'all want to roll out there tomorrow? And they're like, yeah. So we're like, cool. We're going to meet here at noon. And we're going to go out to the back gate. And we've never seen anything out there, really. Like, we've seen a couple planes and stuff. And like, that's one of the big attractions at this point, is like, you just get to watch the aircraft, and it's just badass. We never see it. So we get up the next day, and we're like, our friends finally wake up. We're like, cool, everybody's here. Let's go. And as we're leaving town, like 20 something, like military, like C-130s, they're like the big prop plane, start coming over the valley on the other side. And they're like, they're so low that they're coming over the mountains. Like, this is the mountain, they're going, and then diving back into the valley on the other side. And there's a line of 15 to 30 of them. And we're like, that's fucking badass, man. I don't care what you think. That's fucking badass. And so that was cool. I was like, I'm a aviation nerd. I love that shit. So I'm just like, yo, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen. So we like turn onto this little dirt road that takes us out to the Area 51 gate. And then all these other planes, they're called C-17s, which is like one of my favorite military aircraft. They start buzzing us too. And we're like, this is the best day of my life. Like, this is so sick. And then we drive out, and we're literally like, I can see an Area 51 guard sitting by one of the towers back there. And like, as we walk up to the gates, like, he flashes his lights at us. And he never did it again, never made a move, never did anything, because we never fucked with it, you know? But he flashed his lights once and just let us know that he was there. And we were like, that's a sign of life. That's crazy to me. You can look out in the desert and you can see all these installations of like cameras, and like there's just this eerie sense of being watched. And like, I guess it's just I always thought it was fun to watch people go out and like go to the 51 gates when I was in high school. I was like, oh, it's so spooky. And now it's just like, oh, cool. Like music and traveling with my friends brought me to this point where I can just go see this shit on the way to go do something else, and just like pretty much everything that I've ever imagined, besides like the fantastical, like big, crazy scenarios, like almost everything that I could ever have imagined wanting to do as a child, like has made itself happen through this band and this weird journey. Like I got to ride in a race car for the first time like a week ago because of the band, and like dude like pulled up and dropped us off at the stage, and it was like, how the fuck did this happen? And it's like, it's such a weird thing, because sometimes you're like, man, it really feels like I'm flexing, but then other times it's just like, no, I'm literally just stoked. Like these things happen sometimes where you're like, wow, like this wasn't just like a win the lottery and this happened thing. This was like a pointed, like this cool experience is happening because of all the work that you did over the last 10 years with your friends, or however long it's been. And that's always just like, it's hard to see that in the moment. And then you come back and you're like, wow, like there's so much shit that I've already checked off of my bucket list at this point, just from chasing a dream. Like, cool, chasing the dream and playing shows is one thing. I love that. But then when you get the added perk of just cool shit happening sometimes, and just like getting to experience all these different walks of life and spending time with all these different people and making all these offbeat and different friends, it's like, that's making it to me, like we were talking about the definition of making it earlier. At least I mentioned like everybody's definition is different. Like if we're talking off of experience, like I've done everything that I've ever wanted to do. So it's like, okay, cool. What else is going to happen? And it's definitely very grounding sometimes to like think about that and be like, oh, wow, nice. That was cool. Like that's the payout. You can look at money, you can look at whatever, but like there's a payout. And like the payout is usually more important when it's experiences that you get to have, whether they be good or bad, they're all there and they all like play a part into who you are later in your life. So I don't know. There's my long ass ramble again.
I was just talking when you disappeared the first time about how this has been such a great show because you have just so many fun stories to tell based on all of your life experiences. So yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. The payout comes in different ways for different people, and the idea of making it is different for everyone. And the fact that you've been able to do this for how many years now?
I played my first show in 2013. And then started my first band in 2012. So 10 years in a band, and
so yeah, pretty much a decade at this point.
Yeah.
And you can say that you've done everything that you've wanted to do that you can think of off the top of your head. Like you've had an experience of doing one of those things, and that's incredible.
It is, and I feel like really lucky, to have had those experiences. Like growing up, it was like, all right, play with Slipknot, and like we got to play with Slipknot, and it was like play a big ass fucking festival somewhere, and like the stars aligned where we got to play a couple of them last year, and it was like all you take those little mental screenshots that you just remember and hold on to, and like, man, like that kind of stuff was just like my first introduction to live music was a festival, watching the biggest bands play the biggest stages to 1 billion people, and just, whoa, that's crazy. That's like another level. And then like when we pulled up to our first festival that we ever played, we were still on the freeway and we could see our stage. And it was like, that's the one right there, I think. and it was these two massive behemoths of stages sitting next to each other, and we were literally on the freeway looking at them, and we were like, no fucking way. We park our van in a parking lot and we can still see them, and we're like, no fucking way. And like, we learned the next day that they were like the biggest stages you can get that aren't permanent. And we were like, no way. Like, this is really it right here. Like, this is like, I remember when I first started playing shows telling my friend Brian, I was like, dude, I can't wait until we play a stage big enough where I can full sprint across the stage and run into you. Like, that's gonna be the best day of my life. And like, we got that, and I was just like, oh wow, like this is like, and we happened to play in the perfect storm of times where like we were next to where people were. I don't know. We were like one of the first bands of the day. Everyone came in, and we were the stage right there, so it just filled forever, and it was just like, okay, like you don't remember a second of it, and then you go back and you look at the pictures, and you're like, oh my God, check. Like, call it good. That's fucking
awesome.
sweet, you know? Like, I don't know, and I could go on forever about that, but it's just like there's been a couple experiences where it just humbles you immediately, and you're just like, okay, this is real. Like, I know this is real, and I can really pat like the team and myself on the back for just being here at all. You know, just like, it's really easy to just like keep pushing and like push it aside, but like there's a big difference between being cocky and giving yourself props for what you do. And I say that because like I know that maybe somebody who's like listening is not giving themselves the credit that they deserve. And I do that all the time.
You can just look at Gage. He never gives himself enough credit for all the things that he does.
Well, dude, it's like it's such an easy thing to do because it's like, yeah, you have this internal expectation of what it's going to look like and what things are going to be and how it's going to play out. But the reality of it is what you've set up as your route is almost never what's going to get you the feeling that you wanted from it in the first place, if that makes sense. Like, you can set yourself this goal and you can set yourself a loose like limit of how you're going to get there, but it's always going to deviate. And so when you get to that milestone and checkpoint, like whether you've had to really cut your teeth to get there or it just falls into your lap, regardless, you have to take a step back and give yourself that credit, or it's never going to fucking matter. You're just going to like always chase the next thing where you're like, oh, I'll give myself some credit when I do this. But then what happens if that next thing doesn't come? You never gave yourself credit for anything, you know? Like, if that was the last festival stage I ever played, and I know it won't be, but like if I was just like, all right, whatever, that was fine, but it could have gone better, like I'll just kill it at the next one, and then I never play a festival stage again. How do I look back and pretend that I gave myself credit when I never did? Like, you have to take that shit in, because if you don't, in a moment, you're gonna look back and be like, oh, I was upset that day, like it was really cool, but I was upset, and you're gonna remember it forever, because it's happened to me before where I've had a great experience marred by not being able to zoom out, and you're like, oh, I just ruined this whole checkpoint in life, or not ruined, but added a different flavor to this checkpoint in life that I didn't really want to deal with. You know, you want to look back on your favorite days and just have it be there. And so when you're having one of those days, you're on a roll or you're doing something, like, you got to take that second and like pat yourself on the back, or it's just never going to give you that serotonin boost that we're all chasing, you know, or whatever, the dopamine hit. But I don't know. It's just from trial and error of like missing experiences, not missing them, but just being like, ah, shit. Like I should have enjoyed that more. Like, it's over. I never thought it would be over. Now that experience is over, and I wish I would have enjoyed it more. Like, it's a shit feeling. And the only way to avoid that is, like, obviously you can't help some things, but if you just try to give yourself credit for something or find a silver lining in something, like, that'll sink in over time too. Like, that feeling.
Another thing too, to add on to this, is to take a chance and say yes more.
100%. 100%. I was just talking to my coworker about that. He was like, oh, I got to go do this this thing, but I don't want to do it. But I know that when I get there, I'm probably going to enjoy myself doing it, and then it's going to be sick. So like, you kind of just have to, like take the chance sometimes. If you hate something, then cool. You never got to put yourself in that position again. Maybe you will, but you'll know that you hate it, and you'll know how to prepare yourself for that. You know, reframe
Absolutely.
things a little bit.
That's the theme. The theme through this entire show has been reframing.
Right?
You know.
Dude, I mean, honestly, that's like a big thing that helps me in my personal life, and like pretty much any aspect is just like, okay, well, there's unavoidable shit that happens, and there's unavoidable thoughts that come into your head, and there's whatever that it might be, and there's just some things that, like, unavoidable. That's what it is. And so, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna like accept it and just let it take you down, or whatever, or are you just gonna try and reframe that a little bit and brush it off? Because like, and I'm guilty of it constantly. Like, there's so much energy wasted on things that don't really matter that much. So, you know, and even if it does matter that much, there's almost always some sort of solution to it, or at least some sort of comforting aspect that you can give yourself if you just take a little bit of time and give yourself some credit. Try to reframe things a little bit, like, or like, oh, I feel like shit about this thing that just happened. Like, okay, allow yourself to feel like shit about this thing that just happened, but like, let's try and unpack that a little bit to try and figure out, like, is there fault anywhere? If there is, why? Sometimes there's not fault anywhere. Sometimes shit just happens, and you have to learn how to process that. And at least part of my process is like, it starts with like reframing. Like, all right, I'm going to look at this from this perspective now, and now that allows me to start working through my problems, or through this issue that I've encountered in my day, or through this thing that happened at work, or whatever. Like, from the ground level, you have to like set yourself up for success, which is insanely hard to do. But it's a good like kind of mindset to at least try to tap into, you know.
Also, just to throw this out there, if you're feeling like, you know, you're not able to do that, it's not a bad thing to seek out help. You know, you're like, if you need to get a therapist, or if maybe you need medication, those things are not something to be afraid of. They're something to embrace so that we can all enjoy life in the same way.
100%, dude. Like, that's something I've been like, and I always will be an advocate for, is that like the stigma's not the same, and fuck a stigma regardless, but the stigma of helping yourself is a lot different now. Like, dude, I got to put so much time into my mental health, or I'm literally not going to be a functioning human. Like, I think a big part of it is also being transparent. Like, you don't have to go tell everybody everything you're going through, but if you can be transparent with yourself to start, it helps. Like, I take medications every day, and if I don't take those medications, then I don't really feel like myself sometimes, you know? That's just how it is for some people, and like, that's how it is for a lot of people, a lot more people than you'd realize. It's like, whether it be medications or therapy or lack thereof, or lack of access to those things. Like, mental health's a bitch, and it's really, really hard to confront something if you don't really know something's wrong, because like, shit, I've put a lot of time and effort into trying to be more cognizant of what's going on in my life, in my head, that's bringing me stress, because I'm the type of person that won't realize something's wrong until that last straw happens and there's a massive break, you know, and it feels like shit. And then you're like, oh wow, I've actually been in a bad spot for a minute. But obviously there's never a pressure behind doing anything, but it's fucking helping yourself is sick, you know? You know, what you were going with is like, you deserve that, you know, you deserve that kind of like self-love, and also love from the people around you. And getting help is not something to scoff at, and it's not something to like just put away. It's definitely been the thing that kept me going. Like, I never would have made it through. Like, I had a really rough year a couple of years ago where I just pretty much I was not myself. by any sense of the word. And I'm still kind of rocked by that to this day. And I still have to do a lot more work than I've ever had to do to make sure that I'm on top of my game and still me, you know? So like, it's scary at first. It's scary when you don't know what's going on in your own head or your own world, or if you feel overwhelmed by all that shit. But it is like massively freeing once you start to unpack it. Feels like shit. There's no going around that. Therapy and meds are not, and whatever else sort of help. It's the opposite of sunshine and rainbows. It hurts a lot. But it's the same thing as like an investment. You don't want to invest $500 right now because $500 is a lot of money. But what if somebody told you that $500 would just keep increasing regardless of what you do, as long as you just spend that first little bit of time and money? It's the same deal with your mental health. Like, shit is so much harder to unpack when there's years and years and years and years and years and years of trauma and whatever else may happen in your life. And if you can like take any sort of step, talking to a friend and letting them know that you're hurting is big. That doesn't mean you have to go start therapy and do some hardcore shit right off the bat. But like, even just being able to be transparent. Someone asks you if you're doing all right. Your friend asks you if you're doing okay today. Don't be afraid to tell them no. Because like, once you're honest outwardly, you can, like, at least in my life, if I'm honest outwardly about how I'm feeling, I stop holding myself to a standard where I have to fake it. You know, I stop having to fake it so much, where it's like, yeah, man, I'm doing great. All this great stuff is happening. But maybe sometimes it's not, you know? That, you know, there's a fine line there sometimes where it's like, sometimes you don't want to have that talk. That's okay. But if your buddy is like, hey, like, there's a difference between like, oh, how's it going, man? And like, hey, how are you? Like, what's going on? Be honest, because it'll help you a lot more than you think, you know? It's helped me. Like, transparency is the name of the game for me. Like, and I'm lucky to have like people around me that'll listen, and you know, that's not always the end all be all solution, but at least starting to teach yourself to be able to confront shit. Then you can take that to your therapist. You can take that to whatever source you have, and it'll all start making more sense, because it's just like everything else. You have to practice putting your thoughts out there and organizing your thoughts and figuring out what bothers you. Like, I started therapy. I had no fucking idea what I was doing. I wanted to quit every single time I sat in the chair, still do sometimes. But you get better at relaying your thoughts. And like, I remember there was one day specifically in therapy where I did not want to be there. I was on a roll. I was in such a good place. And that was like the heaviest therapy session I've ever had, was when I was having a great week, a great month. It's because I was out of that emotional turmoil. I didn't know what to talk about, so I just started talking. And next thing I knew, I was just like crying and with my therapist because of some shit I didn't even know I needed to talk about just came out. And I was able to start kind of like unpack that. And that's another thing that I've realized is like mental health is getting a leg up. It's not just like talk it out, back it off. It's like, if you struggle with your mental health, you have to keep pushing through that. It's not just, I feel better, I'm going to stop taking my meds, stop going to therapy. I did that. Didn't work great for me. I didn't really have a very good time after that. That's not like a scary, like, scare you type thing, but like, you have to be ahead of the game if you struggle with your mental health. And
Yeah,
it just takes so much more work. Go ahead.
You can be at your highest and still not be okay. You can be having, like you were saying, you know, the best week, the best month, the best day, whatever it is, and still not be okay. And yeah, it's hard.
It is hard. It's like, especially when it comes out of nowhere and you just break down all of a sudden. You're like, what the fuck? Because it never happens when you think. It's usually like when I'm on a high streak and something breaks that I have my bad days, you know, like you have those couple days a year or however many days a year, but like I can, like, every single massive mental health crisis, or not massive, but like day to day, or fuck quantifying it, a mental health crisis at all. Anytime I felt like I was in crisis and started to go off the cliff a little bit, it's been following a good streak, because that's when it's so easy to let off the gas and stop paying attention, you know? So like nobody wants to have to do that health, but or do all that work just to get through the day. I don't. I really don't. I really wish I didn't have to take meds sometimes, but there's no shame in that. There's zero shame in that. I don't always want to go to therapy, but I'll still go because it just, for some people, and I think a lot of people, it's just, I don't know. It's important. It's really important, which is a blanket statement, but if you go to therapy, you spend your time on your mental health and stuff, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, it's just, you have to be attentive because it's so easy to just start ruminating and just put yourself in a different reality than what you're used to. And shit, man, it doesn't feel good for anybody. Nobody deserves that, you know?
Absolutely.
Especially when you don't know what's going on. That was the scariest point for me, was when I started to struggle with this. Like I struggle pretty badly with like OCD and stuff. And when I didn't know what that was, and I just felt certain ways, I was like, holy shit, just drop me in the middle of the ocean and tell me to swim to land. Why don't you? And then finally starting to center in and at least know that there were other people that went through a similar thing was massively helpful to me. Just being like, okay, all right, so it's not just some random crazy thing. I'm not just crazy, it's this. And that helped me a lot start to process, like, okay, now I can look into like you gave me a keyword for how do I treat this and what does treatment look like and can you get rid of it? No, you can't. All right, cool, sounds good. So it's just like, it helps, like therapy helps you redirect your mental health work into a way that's actually going to benefit you. And it's not just a bunch of shit that's you're just going through the motions with. It's like, it helps you target exactly what's wrong, you know? And that's what at least was the coolest thing for me through the whole experience, was like, I liked to analyze what was going on and have something to like base it off of. And kind of learning what was going on took the fear out. The anxiety stayed. Duh. Where does that go? It doesn't go anywhere. But it helps you redirect it a little bit and kind of helps you give yourself some credit.
And that's the most important part, right? Is you being okay with loving yourself.
100%. It's like, it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. And like, if you spend a lot of your life just like, oh, this is just how it is. Like, oh, that's just how everybody feels. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just how some other people feel. And that's not to make people feel alienated or isolated. But when you start to normalize these things that you're feeling that are shitty, and you're like, oh, that's just how it is. Because you don't know, you know, like, I think back on all the years where I would do all these weird compulsions where I was just like, oh, that's just how people are. But then I started to realize that's not how people are. And that didn't, like, yeah, it makes you feel like shit at first. And you're like, oh, not everybody's like this? What the hell? But then you reframe that shit. It's like, oh, that's how I am, you know? And yeah, maybe it's not exactly like how somebody else is handling this situation. But now I understand that that's how I am. And I can, and if it's something like, there's definitely some compulsions that I have that I wish I didn't have. Like, I'll wash my hands a billion times a day because I don't like touching things or people or anything. And I really wish that wasn't a thing. So you just have to start figuring out, okay, how do I remove the anxiety from this situation that really doesn't matter all that much? And that's beyond me. I didn't go to school. I don't care. I don't know how that works. That's why it's just one of those things where having somebody else that understood it better than me, explaining myself to me, was very freeing. You know, didn't make me feel any better, but it helped me organize my thoughts, you know, and then it's kind of on you to, well, not on you. That's not fair to say. It's on you and your resources that you build with your therapist, with your people around you, with your medications. And you have to find the combination of those things that's actually going to help you. You know, it's not just like, all right, slap a medication on me and let's fucking go. No, you got to, like, and the thing I've always used too, and I'll kind of leave it at that, is like, let's say something goes horribly wrong in the engine of your car. There's a couple people out there that are probably listening to this. They're like, I can fix that. Like, let's say for the average human, you go to start your car in the morning and something goes horrendously wrong, right? You're not going to know what to do. You're not going to know how to work on that, right? So the logical thing would be to call a shop and take it in and get it worked out. So you take the inner mechanics of an engine and you can explain that all you want. And then you take that and you make it 8 billion times more complicated, and also you make it self-aware, and also you put it in control of your whole life. Why the fuck wouldn't you take that in for maintenance? You take your car in, like some people change their own oil, right? But they're still not going to do all this crazy maintenance work themselves. Like, yeah, sometimes I can check myself when I'm in a bad spot, but at the end of the day, that's not what I'm trained in doing. I'm going to take my car in for an oil change. I'm going to take my car in to get the transmission replaced. I'm going to do all these things to keep it running. And that's just something that I spent money on. And if you really want to break it down, money's not even real in the big scheme of things. It's just a little piece of paper or a number on your screen. Your brain is right here, dog. You got to take that shit in for service. Because I know for me, I've ran my brain to blowing up 1,000,000 times, and it took trial and error and trial and error and trial and error. I've blown up car motors too. Guess what? Didn't take it in. My brain is so much more valuable to valuable to me than my car is, and it's worth a hell of a lot more because I can't get another one. So yeah, I'm gonna take the hit, and I'm gonna go. And I'm going to try to do something to help myself with somebody that knows a little bit more than me. With the caveat that it's much harder for some people to get access to true mental health care than it is for others. Which, you know, obviously that's a changing game every day. Things are getting more accessible. But regardless of what that looks like, you have to pay attention to what's going on in your head. The same way you would pay attention to the oil light coming on in your car. You know, that's how I've always thought about it.
Here's something interesting. You know how big a terabyte is, right?
Yeah.
So 1,000 terabytes is a petabyte. Our brains are the equivalent of 2.5 petabytes of information being moved around and transferred in electronic signals in milliseconds. You know, big, crazier than just about any supercomputer in existence.
You would be hard pressed to design something that worked the way our brains does. That's
Exactly.
why AI is so amazing now. I'm not an advocate or like a hater, but the fact that people work so hard to create something that's just recreating humans and human capability, and it's just now getting to that point in 2022, speaks to the complexity of what we all literally have right here. You know, that's that's an insane statistic. 2.5 petabytes in milliseconds.
Yeah.
Put that on Build a PC, and they'll pay you $100,000 for that. Yeah, but TLDR, take care of your fucking brain, because you take care of your physical objects, and your brain is just about as physical to you as you can get. You know.
Absolutely.
It'll try to trick you a lot too, which is the bullshit part. Brains aren't really nice. They're kind of assholes. So,
definitely.
Yeah.
Damn. So Gage, you want to take over the show again? we kind of took over there for a little while.
That was
you went off on you said something about like mental health, and that's just such like a
it was
point for so many people, and like for me very much so. Like
it was just the idea of how we've been talking about reframing, and I just thought it was a perfect kind of, you know, analogy for going into that. But then the fact that it's also okay to, you know, to need help and all that. So yeah, it was a perfect jumping off point. Absolutely, you killed it. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was definitely going from like the first half of the show, which was
talking about people jerking off in public and like getting stuck in Iceland and like our van breaking down and shit to like talking about like, hey, take care of your brain.
Yeah.
Take care of your brain, or you'll talk about people jerking off for 45 minutes. There's your. You want a prime example? There
Right?
you go.
Man, I don't really know where else to go from there. So, I guess we can kind of start.
You're out a wind up
Yeah,
point, I guess. Dude, I could sit here like you guys like literally like, dude, I've known you for 9 years,
Yeah.
and I've known Philip and McKenna for approximately 2 hours, and I could kick it with you guys literally until the sun comes up.
Absolutely.
Got it. I mean,
No, this is, and honestly, like, dude, it's very like, I don't know, it's cathartic for me because like sometimes I get like it really in my. It's not like it's hard for me to talk to people when I get in the moment, but I get really in my head like, oh man, like usually when I have like a big conversation with somebody, I'll like spend 4 hours thinking about like, all right, what's literally everything I said,
yeah.
what's everything that it went on, like pick my words carefully. But what's cool here is that like I've not felt even an iota of that. It's the same deal as like you know, I wouldn't say nervous was the right word, but it was like, all right, like what am I going to talk about? Like how deep is it? Are we going to go? Like what are we going to just like? How's it going to go? I don't really know. Like what are we going to do here? And it felt like immediately like that like pressure to put up a facade was just like, all right, fuck that. Like
Yeah.
it's been like, I don't know. It's been really nice for me to just like talk about bullshit for a while and then tie it into like some really, really just like amazing, like cool, insightful talks with you guys. And I don't know. I appreciate you guys a lot. Like it's been sick. It's been really, really, really cool. And I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, this has been great. I mean, I'm sure we'll have to do this again at some point. You know, we'll have.
Oh, dude, like
absolutely.
Dude, if you ever just want another voice around to hang out, like I spend most of my nights pretty much doing this, like hanging out with friends on Discord and playing video games and doing whatever. So like, dude, I'm always down to hang, and like this is I'm not even just down to hang. I would be very excited to hang out if you guys would have me. So just say the word.
Absolutely.
You know what I should have done, Gage? I should have reached out to Ryan, because Ryan is also former band touring guy who.
Which Ryan?
Ryan Colt Levy. He recently became a voice actor. Cool. And if you've seen like My Hero Academia, the new movie just came out for the anime, and he plays the like central side character in that.
No shit.
Yeah,
that's really, really cool.
And he just got they just announced that he's the lead voice in the upcoming anime Chainsaw Man, which is super dope.
I've heard about that.
And
actually, my coworkers were just talking about Chainsaw Man the other day. They're huge into anime, and they were just going off about it for like 5 minutes. That's actually really sick. That's crazy.
We'll have to get you guys together in a chat like this, and then you can tell your friends that you talked to the guy who's going to be voicing him in the anime.
Dude, what I'll do is I'll wait and I'll be like, "Hey man, what was that anime that you guys just like were talking about? Oh yeah, check this out. By the way, just by the way, I just hanging out. No, that's sick though. That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, before he was a voice actor, he did like band. He was in a band and whatnot. And I totally think he would love everything we've talked about today.
Oh,
and
dude.
Probably have his own fun stories to talk about. He also did the Ken, the Barbie Ken music video for like the cartoon or something not too long ago. I can't remember. But yeah,
just hooking
like he
it up
rapped
behind the. Let's go, man.
He rapped as Ken. It was hilarious.
That's fucking awesome. Let's go. I love that. No, I would love that. That would be awesome. Like literally, I'm around, always down to hang. Like, like I said, this is pretty much just what I do. Come home from work, hang out, play some music, do this.
Except tonight you're gonna watch The Green Room, right?
Yeah. What's it on? Is it on like Netflix or Hulu or anything right now?
Oh man, I don't know. Hold on.
Find out. Guess I could just look it up. Not like I'm not sitting at a computer that could tell me everything I want to know, huh?
All right, it is on Amazon Prime. It looks like.
Fucking go! I got $3. Let's do it. Dude, speaking of horror movies, y'all seen Blair Witch Project?
Like the old school movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like
Absolutely.
my favorite movie ever. I have it tattooed on my hand right here.
Ah, that's awesome.
I was just listening to this podcast the other day. Actually, I think you guys would probably find this podcast fairly interesting. It's called American Hysteria. It's like my childhood best friend, his older sister. It basically, she just goes and does like 45-minute, however long things about like things that have happened, eras that have happened in American history, like hysteria. Like they'll talk about like satanic panic. They talked about the Blair Witch Project and how it occurred in a time of the internet where you could get away with trolling the entire world at once with a fake story and getting away with it.
Would that be with Chelsea Weber Smith?
Yep, that's her.
Got it.
Yep,
And
she just did one with You're Wrong About, which is a pretty cool podcast, and they did one about the Donner Party. If you know what the Donner Party is, that shit is sick, and they did a really, really cool podcast about it. I listened to the last podcast on the left about that one, and then A-Bing it with the one from American Hysteria is very interesting because it's like very similar stories on it, but very different focuses, and it's just really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Good times.
I did it again, Gage. I'm sorry.
No, it's totally fine. I don't care. It's just another excuse to hang out for longer.
That's true.
So, I do want to ask one final thing before we
Hit me with it.
or go on another tangent. Who knows?
Bro, hit me with as many things as you want. I got nothing to do.
You guys have got another album coming up soon, right?
We do.
Yeah.
Yes. Cult Mentality coming out in early November. That
great name.
is. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you like that. That we spent a while thinking about it, and like, I guess Cult Mentality is like I guess that's how we described what helped us get to where the point that we're at in our lives, not even our careers, but like if you want to make it in anything, you have to have that cult mentality of like, this is the only thing that matters right now. And for us, it's been the cult mentality of like, hey, none of us know what's going to happen, but we all have to trust each other, and we all have to really, really put a lot of faith in each other to get this shit done. So let's do that. And we've done that for years and been through everything together. And I guess cult mentality was the kind of the term that came up about what it took for us and like what we see and what it took for other people in their various careers and whatever they may be doing. Like it takes that, whether it's like cult of yourself, cult of your band, cult of your brand, cult of whatever the fuck. Like you have to commit like it's a cult without maybe the Jonestown stuff. That wasn't really that chill. But like, you know, maybe like the good parts of a cult where you're like all in and all for one and all just like doing the damn thing together to the point where it doesn't make fucking sense anymore.
I don't want to bring up the person in question, but one of our guests actually has a relationship with someone that was in that whole thing. It's our episode with Prince.
Interesting.
From
listen to that.
Nightlight. Yeah, it's pretty. It's. I don't remember where it is in the show, but he talks about it. And whatnot.
Really interesting. I spent like the whole last tour listening to this multi-part like Jonestown precursor explanation of how Jim Jones was raised, what brought him up, how he gained power within his community, and what he did to get to the point where he could get people to just poison themselves. And it was fucking unbelievably interesting because you can apply that to that mentality whether it be good or bad, that cult mentality to good and bad things still to this day. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. It was a trip. It was a total trip. Like, obviously, like, cult mentality can be taken a few different ways. And I guess that's kind of probably the point, is like, yes, it's an extreme way of thinking with each other and like doing the same shit, but it's not always inherently bad. You know what I mean? Like I said, like, cult of yourself. Pretty much need to have that and figure to like give yourself any love at all. Like, you have to be selfish before everything else and fully commit to yourself first. Like, however you want to frame it, the way we framed it was like, have that cult mentality, you know?
Okay, this just spawned a new question for me. So this is not someone you could play with, but someone you could play for. If you could play for anyone, who would it be? This just got me thinking about figureheads and stuff. So now I'm like, huh.
God, I would love to play for Mastodon. I fucking love Mastodon. That band is so cool. And like, they are on that massive scale of playing these huge shows, but they have this vibe of all of them still being connected. It's not like watching 5 great musicians. It's like watching all of them together. It's very clear that they have a chemistry there, and like, which is the interesting part too, because I wouldn't want to be a part of Mastodon if I wasn't there for the ride too. You know, it's like, and I have that in my own band too. But like, if I were to pick another band, Mastodon is up there for sure, just because I think they're fucking sick. I think they rip, and I think they look like they have a lot of fun doing it and writing really unique music. Slipknot. I want to know what my mask would look like if I was in Slipknot. That'd be dope. That they've been like one of my favorite bands forever. That's like OG, one of the bands that got me into music. Like, my Slipknot merch collection is unhinged. Shouldn't exist. I fucking love that band so much. So I think the top of everything, Slipknot, followed closely by a band like Mastodon, or maybe like a post-rock band like even Russian Circles, something like that. But yeah, I'd say final answer, Slipknot.
That's a good answer.
That's cool.
Band is badass, man. They like, I was listening to Slipknot growing up. I wasn't even a little metalhead yet, but I would listen to Slipknot growing up, and it would just get me so fucking stoked. Like, my favorite song by Slipknot is still like the first music video I ever saw by them, which was Left Behind. Every time I hear that song, I'm like, put me in. I'm here. But even just to like tour with them would be sick, or like play another, like, we played a show with them. It was a festival. It was Knotfest 2015. But yeah, if we could play a show, and I'm sure it'll happen at some point, you know, just putting that into the world. I'd love to see how they function behind the scenes at this point in their career. Like, I don't know. But playing a Slipknot show would be sick. I'd definitely jump off shit a lot.
Okay, sorry. Back to your new album coming out. I'm sorry.
Dude, that's really it. There's a lot of different songs on it. There's some really, 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 really heavy songs for all y'all that want to kick some ass, and then there's also some songs for y'all that want to show this to your parents and be like, let me go to the show, or whatever. Maybe your parents will even like it. I don't know. We kind of want to be the band that like you and your mom like. So, you know what I mean? That's how Benny ends most shows, is he'll be like, hey, we better avoid kicks ass. And we'll cut the ring out while we'll be walking on. He goes, by the way, tell your mom I said hi, and then I'll turn the mic off and leave.
Yes.
Somebody sent us a screenshot on the last tour. They texted their mom and said, Avoid says hi, and she texted back, what's up, Avoid? And then they like sent it to us, and they were like, we told her.
That's awesome.
That's
So
great.
basically, yeah, we want to be the band that you and your mom like.
Heck yeah, dude. Avoid, your mom's favorite band.
Boom.
Hell yeah.
Might make that a merch piece.
Do it.
So wait, what is it available on, or what will it be available on? How can people get their hands on it?
Everything. And if we get to that point and you're like, I don't have any streaming services, and also I don't know what YouTube is, And also, I don't know how to listen to music. Literally, I will send it to you when the album comes out. I don't care how you hear it. You can hear it from Spotify. You can hear it from Apple Music. You can hear it anywhere you can think of. And at your last resort, hit me the fuck up and I'll give it to you. Straight up.
Okay, new question. How can people get a hold of you?
You can follow the band on Instagram at avoidkicksass. You can follow me on Instagram at coolhand, but the A is an X, so it's COOLHXND. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram. Probably Instagram. My Twitter's just memes. But
I mean, that's most of Twitter at this point.
dude, hit me on if anything. Don't care. Follow me, message me. Let's chat. Let's hang out. If we're in your city, come find me. Let's chat.
You are coming to Philly in November, so
We're gonna be in Philly in November, so
Do you
come find me. We'll hang out.
Okay.
Do you have a .com?
We have a .org, believe it or not.
There we go.
We thought it was hilarious to do a .org, so we did avoidkicksass.org.
Hey,
You can
Colt.
find our concert dates there. You can find our merch there. You can join our email list there. We have a Discord. If you want to join our Discord, just message me or anybody in the band or the band page. I'll send you the link.
Cult
post
mentality.
it pretty
Join the
frequently, too.
organization, you know?
There you go, dude. Join the cult. Who knows? We might take you to another country someday and we'll all live together.
Let's go to Iceland.
Yeah. Fuck it. Let's go hang out in Iceland.
I know where puffins are.
Oh, let's go, dude. We already got a lead on puffins. Like, Iceland is the spot. Good
Can it be the
healthcare.
same van guy, though?
Oh, dude, that guy. I'll bet you that guy joined the cult.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, man, you want to live in your puffin van out on this fucking reserve I bought in the middle of Iceland?
Hell yeah. It's got puffins on it. It's got whales on it. It's a good van.
Hey, can you say our band name in Icelandic, please?
Man, that'd be
Yeah, exactly.
Please. Can you say avoid kicks ass in
What do they speak? Is it Icelandic?
I think I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's Icelandic.
Hey, anybody from Iceland that watches this, please, please enlighten me. Also, tell me how to get. If somebody from Iceland is watching this, tell me what the language is called and tell me how to say "go fuck yourself" in it. That's all I want.
Heck yeah.
Yes. Perfect.
Hell yeah, guys. Good shit.
All right. Anybody else have anything else that they want to ask?
McKenna, is your napkin ready?
Of course, I do have the napkin, but I will say all of my questions have been answered.
Oh.
Dang it!
Dude.
Somehow, through everything, all my questions were. It was all tour questions.
That's what happens when you talk too much. So there you go. I got you.
It was great. Yeah, you knew my questions without even knowing them. It was mind.
Oh, did I forget to mention that I know how to read minds?
Oh shit.
My fucking bad, guys. My bad.
I have a question that I think McKenna might like.
Hit me with it.
And that is, when you're recording an album,
Yes.
how do you go about that process?
Dude, there's like billion different ways that we've gone through that process. So last summer we went to LA for the entire month of July, and honestly, that whole story could probably take me an hour to tell.
Episode
So
two?
episode 2.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell the story of
Teaser.
July in Los Angeles. Anyway, we spent 30 days down there about recording, and we used approximately one riff that made the final album. And that was after we had written 30 songs for the record, something around that. 30 songs, 30 uncompleted songs, finished or not, riffs. We probably had somewhere between 20 and 30 songs that we had written over COVID. 0 of those made the record. And then one song that we partially wrote in Los Angeles over that month ended up making the final record. So we ended up going back down in December and writing the whole thing from scratch, essentially. And it all came together in about 3 weeks. So everything you'll hear on that record was pretty much created in a span of a month. Yeah, it was a lot. And we've had record processes where we go with full songs written and we just work with them in the studio. We've had record processes where we do it ourselves, like Alone was completely self-produced. That's our only full length out right now. The Burner was a bunch of songs that were the Burner was a lot of different songs written, bunch of different songs not used, some songs used, and it was basically just like taking those songs, turning them into completely different songs and releasing them. And then this new one was basically just like spend a month there, use nothing, write 30 songs, use nothing, write a new album in 3 weeks.
Holy shit.
So it varies, man. It varies a lot. And I know it works that way for a lot of bands where it's a little different every time. Some people just find their rhythm and lock into it, but that's not how we roll.
Nice.
Can't promise. That's my last question, Gage.
I think you've said that twice, 3 times so far, so I don't know if I believe you.
I have a question. You guys want to see my Switchblade? Check this out.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's sweet.
I left it on the dashboard of our van, so this side is the color it should be, and this side is not.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
It turned copper.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Anyway,
I'm not gonna lie. Being colorblind, I can't tell.
So this side's a little bit not darker, and this side is much darker.
Got it.
Got you. Dude, I have so many friends that are just like randomly like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm colorblind. And I'm like, oh, bet. All right, cool. It's like, fuck, am I colorblind? I don't know at this point.
Questioning everything.
I mean, statistically speaking,
I could be colorblind.
could be. Okay, I think we should probably wrap it there
Sounds good.
before we hit the 3-hour mark.
Don't fucking.
I tried to make it longer, everybody. I tried.
That's okay.
That's what she said.
Dave, maybe we'll have like a part 2 or something, or we just fucking do little segments here and there.
Absolutely gonna have to do a part 2. Maybe get you on with Ryan.
Dog,
There's so many options.
You just let me know, man. I'm
messaging Ryan tonight. I want to make that happen.
Well, hey, I'm here for a few weeks, man. You just hit me up, let me know. I'm always in.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Dope.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for watching. Remember to go follow the band at Avoid Kicks Ass on pretty much everything, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Go. You guys, we stream on Twitch, you make music, you do all this cool shit, so go follow them. And I guess we'll see you in the next episode. So do it, Phil.
You're all pretty good,
Oh, so
and you're out of our league.
Oh, so good. So good.
Pretty good.
That was really good.